along with the songs. And he's like, you might as well not even wear headphones at all, since you're just blasting your earbuds with the actual
that is
music.
Insane. It is weird how long I went without even hearing just basic sound safety stuff like that. Like I went to so many shows. Like I think I was like probably like 24 or 25 by the time somebody was like, hey, you should probably wear like earbuds to those things. And I was like, why? Like, what do you mean? Like, I've never seen that. I didn't see anybody doing that. No one told you to do that. It's strange.
Here was the first thing I know. I saw Billy Joel like 15 years ago at AT&T Park. And that was the first time I had seen him with my own two eyes, an infant or like a young baby being held with headphones on him. And I'm like, why is the baby even at a Billy Joel concert right now in the middle of the night? I have no idea why. Maybe you couldn't get a babysitter or whatever. That was the first time I ever even considered it, because I've said before, I've been to well over 100 live shows at this point in my life, although most of them happen between ages 14 and probably 25. And you wouldn't really see that, like other people wearing earbuds, or like you wouldn't see that. And then as I got older, like you said, I would go see, like when I saw 311 the last time, there were people with like little, you know, just the airplane type things in their ears that you would wear, like the disposable ones. And I'm like, no. So, see, like when I go to a concert, I want to be blasted out so badly that I can't hear straight when I go. Like when you're, you know, when you,
it only takes once, Colin. You're gonna regret that.
You put your head on the pillow, and you like it's just ringing. That's how you know you went to a rock show. If that's not happening, like if you're gonna muffle it and stuff, why bother?
we're gonna do the show. We're gonna do the show for another 10 years, and every single episode, Colin's going to say what like
what
80 times. Like what's he saying?
I was the same as you, Colin. Until I went to that Iron Maiden show where I was at the barrier. And then it's like, oh, cool, I have ringing in my ears at the first night. That's fine. And then the second night. And then the third night. And the fourth. And the first month. The second month. And literally, I think I had ringing in my ears for over a year. It's finally now not noticeable at all. Maybe my brain's tricked me out of it, but I'm just saying, it just takes one bad experience and then you're gonna go, oh, that's no. Crazy. You have a panic when you're laying in bed a month later and you think, this is my life now. Yeah, this is the rest of my life.
That's actually, I love that you think, the idea that your brain would trick you into not hearing it, like it's, like,
no,
like
that's
how
true. That's a real thing.
No, yeah, but like how it ignores your nose.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it's just part of my life now and I can't focus on this. Yeah, I don't know. Like the last show I went to, I put in they're like earbuds that you would put in when you go shooting.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, like I had a way better experience. It's weird because you can actually hear the music like clearer, and then also you can talk to people next to you very clearly too. It's very strange. What? Yeah, dude, it's so annoying. It's just like I've had so many conversations at concerts where I might as well have not had those conversations. You know
and eventually
I mean?
just get.
Yeah, just nod and just be like, please stop talking to me. Yeah. You know? It's, I don't know, maybe I will come. I just was more surprised with the drums specifically, where like my dad, I played drums for many years. It's like no one ever came in to my room, because I had my kit in my room, where I was like, maybe you should, have you ever considered wearing headphones or anything like that? It's like no one ever said. My drum teacher didn't say it. My parents didn't say it.
Yeah.
I used to play drums with my friends at their house. Their parents didn't say anything.
But the generation that raised you wasn't really concerned about that level of health awareness.
They weren't really concerned about very much of anything, to be honest.
So it's very different time. Although, like, I don't know, with guitar, drums are fucking loud. Like, really there's no real way to quietly play drums unless you're just like a little prissy bitch.
Oh, I know. It's
brushes or whatever.
Brushes are cool. Brushes are so complicated to play with. I got brushes for Christmas one year, and I was like, I don't really even know what to do with these, but it's funny because people, I wanted to get a drum kit in San Francisco for so long, and there was nowhere to play, and people were like, get an electric kit or whatever. I'm like, dude, I appreciate electric kits. That's totally fine if you want to play on one of those, but it's not the same, and I do not want to replace one with the other. Like playing an acoustic drum kit, there's nothing like it. The feel, I think you could be almost deaf, and I'm not saying it because of what we were saying, but I think you could be almost deaf and play drums and know that you're playing them right. It's actually very similar to bass, where you can almost feel, if you know enough, you can almost feel that you're playing the right thing through your hand. you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, Dustin. I never like getting up at the barrier, like near the monitors and stuff in the stacks, because you're always getting overwhelmed by one instrument. If you're if you see 311 and then you're on the left side, it's all the guitar monitors and amps, you know? And it's like, I want to be like in the middle towards the back. Like really in front of the soundboard, if you can be on the floor. Because obviously they're in the ideal spot. But I don't go to many shows anymore, so. And I won't be able to hear them in a few years anyway.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to my friend Mike Patelli. You met him at the wedding, Dustin. It's my G.I. Joe consigliere. He was impressed with the toy shelf back here, and he's like, something really needs to be added to it. And he knows that, I don't talk about it very much, but in the late 80s, early 90s for a few years, I was a big Turtles fan, as everyone was back then. And Casey Jones was always my favorite character in Turtles. I love Casey Jones. Why do you think that's funny?
No, I was gonna guess who that was, and for some reason my brain went Casey Anthony, and then I remember.
Oh, Casey. That's another one of my favorite characters for crazy women. And so he got me this cool figure for the back shelf, so I appreciate that. Really, really cool. What a great character, Casey Jones. The vigilante in the hockey mask, beating the shit out of people. Do you guys know the live-action Turtles movie? He's so good in that. Like the rendition of him in that is so good when him and Raphael fight in the park. A Jose Canseco bat. Oh my god, love it. So shout out to Mike. Thank you for sending that in. Appreciate that. It also came with different like heads. It's like a head here, and then it came with some hands. You can use the different hands as well. Toys are getting out of control, dude. They didn't make toys like this when I was a kid.
They had some of them I remember there were Spider-Man toys like that. Or Dragon Ball toys like that, because they were like fists and then they were Kamehameha hands that you could.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. You guys were a little younger where you were starting, because we were buying them, but we weren't really playing with them, like the McFarlane style toy. Like that was, I think, so like Spawn, but then like the Metal Gear figures and all of that stuff. Like that was when I remember Resident Evil had a really cool line of really sophisticated figures. It was just such a jump, from what we were playing.
Yeah.
So strange. And now we have these awesome toys. Anyway, we're totally off topic, but that's what Sacred Symbols is all about. Welcome. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, episode 289. So we are getting awfully close to episode 300. Very exciting. We've entered, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. This is our 7th calendar year doing the show, which doesn't make any sense. And we go live each and every week. We appreciate you guys being here. Get it 3 days early and ad-free over on Patreon. Patreon.com/LastDayMedia. Early ad-free access to all of our shows. The ability to submit your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas. Sacred Symbols plus access and so on and so forth. 15,500 plus now is the number of paying subscribers over on Patreon. We call that the Bradley Ellis effect. And we're so pleased to have him over there on Summon Sign. Now, Chris, you were on Summon Sign, our newest show, hosted by Brad Ellis, formerly of Game Trailers and Easy Allies. And did you have a good time? It looked like I was reading through the comments. The reception's really good. We have ourselves a fun little program here, don't we?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's nice to just sit and be able to actually like talk about what we're playing for like a really extended period of time. It feels like there's enough room and enough runway to really kind of get everything out there. And I think Brad's a great host. Like I feel like he asks all the right questions. You know what I mean? To keep things going. That was my first interaction with him. Like at all was on
both
that
you
show.
and Maddie.
Yeah.
He's a pro, dude.
Yeah, he is a pro.
Never met either one of you.
Yeah, he requested you guys. And so I'm glad he got that. And again, different permutations every week. I don't know when the next time I'll be on it is, but we're super stoked about the way Summon Signs, how it's performing. We're stoked for the success of the show. We're stoked for Brad. We love having him with us. So thank you guys for supporting that show over there. And it was good to have you on there, Chris. So thanks for making the time to do that. Of course, Sacred Symbols Plus. We do that once a week over on patreon.com/laststandmedia. We did a deep 2+ hour dive of Insomniac's leak, breaking that down. We did our fantasy critic picks and, of course, also the results. We did a fun episode where I gathered the JRPG boys. Those JRPG boys grinding, equipping swords. So there's quite a few people. By the way, I have a totally new, so everything goes back into that Southern man accent. And again, watching these Predator videos, one of the guys was saying that he's like, where did you meet these guys? He's like, oh, I met him on, she was just playing Roblox. And then they were like, so what are you doing on there or whatever? And she's like, oh, she's just drinking her orange juice. And so I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on Roblox? Like, and now that's where people are chasing the children, is on Roblox. Protect them, Dustin, at all costs.
You gotta protect them. But dude, Roblox, that's a Wild West. Anything can go. There's probably drug deals going on somehow.
Yeah, it's like the Silk Road runs on there or whatever. You
The
know?
kids Silk Road.
Yeah, the children's Silk Road. Well, there is a episode. Fuck, what was it? It's actually kind of clever where there was an episode. It might have been Homeland or something where terrorists would communicate through an old PS2 game. Do you reckon? And like they would
Didn't
sign.
that actually happen?
I don't know if it did happen or not, but it was in this show, like where they would sign into old games, and that's how they would communicate with each other. Like, and it's so kind of.
They're on
you say things like
SOCOM
that, and you're like,
too.
I don't want to give anyone any ideas, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
What was I talking about? How did I get on that whole trail of the
JRPG
Southern Man and the
boys.
Orange Juice? Oh, the JRPG boys. That's right, the JRPG boys. So I gathered Brad and Gene and you, Dustin, and me, and we sat for more than 2 hours and just discussed Japanese role-playing games, the state of them, the past of them, the future, our favorites and least favorites, how we even interpret the term. That was a really fun conversation. I have a couple of interviews lining up, including one with a very, very, very heavily requested guest that I think is finally going to happen. Plus, I'm trying to get together with a guy who's a huge advocate of AI because I am becoming so anti-AI that I'm becoming like radicalized the more it goes on. Not about basic AI, like, you know, what's the answer to this question or give me this math. I don't give a fuck about any of that, but the AI in the way that it's coming out now. So we're going to have a cool, hopefully not adversarial, but challenging conversation on that in the next couple of weeks with someone who knows a lot about it. Merch can be found at laststandmedia.store. Shirts, hats, sweatshirts, stickers, etc. Free shipping on all stickers here domestically in these United States. And please leave us nice reviews on podcast services. Leave a comment on a video if you're watching it. You can follow us on YouTube, etc. and so on. Kenneth Brown wrote in. Said, hey, Sacred Dudes, with 2024 upon us, when can we expect announcements about live shows this year? A show on Long Island, maybe? I'm selfishly looking for something East Coast. I'll hang up and listen. Long Island, no. But New York City, yes. Sacred Symbols 300th episode celebration. March 24th, 2024. At the SVA Theater, School of Visual Arts, in Manhattan, New York City. It's a Sunday, right? Sunday?
It is a Sunday, correct.
Sunday,
Palm
March 24th.
Sunday.
Palm Sunday, great. So come with your religious vestments on. And I remember my dad used to come home and they would take the palm, right, and they would make a cross out of it. You're not Catholic, but that's what, Chris, you remember this? And they would,
I think so.
and then they would basically make them, and then you would stick them somewhere in your house. And before you knew it, as the years went on, you just had all these palms. In Catholic houses, anyway, you'd have all these.
Yeah.
Palms. It's kind of like when people would just randomly come in with the ash on their face, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" Oh, it's Ash Wednesday.
Right.
Gotcha. It's like there's something on your face. What's going on here? You know? Oh, that's Ash Wednesday. All right, so Sacred Symbols 300th episode celebration. Now, it's not going to be the 300th episode. We're going to do a regular episode for 300. We do that because we feel like, first of all, this is an additive and extra product, but we're also missing an episode when we do that, and it's not really great to listen to in audio only, and, you know, not everyone can attend. So we're going to do something separate to celebrate our 300th episode. So again, we'll have more details on when the tickets will go on sale, I don't know, next couple of weeks, I assume. Dustin?
I would think so. It's all being worked out because we're gonna have VIP. We're gonna, you know, there'll be normal tickets as well. It's gonna be. I'm so excited for New York. I haven't been there in so long, and so it'll be cool to gather everybody.
Yeah.
Big Apple.
It's crazy. I walked by this theater so many times. It's a bit weird.
Well, now we're going to play it. SVA Theater, Chelsea, New York City, Manhattan, March 24th, 2024, Sunday. Mark it down on your calendars. More soon on that. We hope to see you there. By the way, I think almost everyone's coming beyond the family, right?
Maddie and Cog are not.
Right, because they'll be at PAX.
They'll be at PAX.
But I think Brad's coming, Dagan's coming, Gene's coming.
Yep.
Ben will obviously be there. Who am I missing? I'm missing someone. Mike will obviously be there. So, all right. Exciting times. Mm-hmm. So there you go. There's your answer. And a few people wrote in about that. We'll have more shows later in the year too, but this is going to be our big East Coast show for the year. So if you are anywhere near New York City and you want to come on down, boy, and drink your orange juice. It's gross.
Oh, man.
All right. I don't know sometimes, Chris. You know?
Yeah, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I just realized it's gonna be March, so it's gonna be like good weather. It's gonna be that like nice time to be at the city. It's not gonna be too freezing. It's not going to be too sweltering. That's a good time.
March should be good. You're right. I mean, yeah, March/April, September/October, good times. October/November, really.
Yeah.
But now with all the climate change stuff, I don't know if it's actually happening or not, but it feels like it kind of is, and it's like, who the hell knows what's going to happen. Again, I was sweating to death at my wedding on October 28th. Okay. Let's see here. Anything else to say before we get into the topics of discussion? Feeling pretty good today, to be honest. Had a good night's sleep. Rush got his teeth cleaned yesterday for the first time.
Any removals?
No removals, no
Good.
extractions. But what was weird, so here's the thing though, Bostons are fucking all fucked up. I mean, they're not natural creatures at all.
Yeah.
And so we don't know if this, like, how this could have happened, but he's missing 3 teeth. And like, they're not entirely sure, like, did they just never come in? Or did he miss them? And I'm like, so we don't really know for sure. We're like, it doesn't really make any sense. He's only, he's going to be 4 in a few months, but he's too young to really be losing teeth in my experience. And no teeth got extracted, which indicates to me that there was nothing really dangerous going on. So it seems like he just didn't get all of them. And it's because they're so compacted and strange, you know? And so he's just been out of it ever since he came home. Like, he's like just staring off into space almost. I'm like, what did they do to you, boy?
He's all drugged up, and they stole his teeth and pretended like they didn't. That's
Yeah,
what happened.
exactly. He loves going to the vet for some reason. We have a separate leash that we bring, like that we use to bring him to the vet because we have to leave it there, and it's like just a red leash we take out of a drawer somewhere, and he freaks the fuck out. And he loves going.
That's strange.
Yeah, and I think it's because he gets so much attention. There's just so many people.
Yeah.
Because he knows some of the people in the neighborhood, and he knows my family and stuff, but he really doesn't see very many people. He probably thinks people are somewhat rare, you know? And so I think he gets amped about that. You know?
I love that idea.
Yeah.
That, like, that to a dog, other humans are completely, like, they're rare. It's rarefied air to see them. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly. So I think
You're
he gets
like
amped up.
the community in The Last of Us, like that's
Right.
functioning, and he thinks that outside it's like, oh, it's not all that common out there.
Right, exactly. He
Yeah,
doesn't know
it's
that
like- It's like
there's
the giver.
the whole wide world out there.
Yeah, it's funny because he sees black and white too.
Yeah.
You guys, I love that book.
That's a great book.
I remember nothing about it other than a plane. Like they saw a plane or something. Right?
Is that what it was?
I feel like that was the thing, right? They saw the plane and they were like, oh, it's modern time. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a long
It
fucking
sounds
time.
like The Village.
Whatever.
Yeah, that is The Village.
Oh, yeah, same shit.
It is actually kind of similar.
Yeah, The Giver is about that society where, like, they give you jobs when you're born, right, or whatever, and then but there are people that it's like a totalitarian society where people are born into these structures in which they are kind of sent off to do certain things, and this one person becomes like the protege of the giver, and he can see color and all that, right? Isn't that what it's about? That's what I remember.
Yeah.
No, that's Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius.
Fair enough. That was Lois Lowry, right? The Giver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out.
Yeah.
Sacred Symbols is sponsored by Fume, an acclaimed tool to help you kick a pernicious bad habit. Learn more now at tryfume.com/sacred. That's FUM, and start your journey today. So Sacred Symbols has had a lot of sponsors over the years, and I'm appreciative of all of them. And the numbers tell me a lot of you guys support our sponsors too, which is awesome and something I also appreciate. But every once in a while, a sponsor is featured on our show that speaks to people on a deeper level, to the point where they reach out to tell me. Fume is one such sponsor, a flavored air device that's resonating with Last Stand's audience to the degree where I have listeners DMing me unprompted about their positive experiences, grateful for the exposure to something revolutionary. Such a ringing endorsement speaks for itself, but let me get you caught up on just what Fume is, what it can do for you, and why you too may find it appealing. As mentioned earlier, Fume is best described as a flavored air device, a completely analog implement that a user simply pulls air through. So what's the point? Well, the air is flavored and scented by way of interchangeable, disposable, and variety-filled cores. When you put an orange vanilla core into your Fume, therefore, my personal favorite, the air you pull through will fit that description to a T. Whether your taste fits more with raspberry lemon or sparkling grapefruit or one of Fume's variety of other core types, you'll find that Fume is so popular because for many, it replaces a very specific bad habit with something completely neutral. No vapor, no tar, and no burning because you can't even turn your Fume on, plug it in, or charge it. That's how all natural and easy to use it is. But even if cessation isn't your own personal quest, and frankly it isn't for me, there's a lot to love with Fume, and it typically accompanies me here at my desk as I write, record, and otherwise work through my days and nights. Well made of wood and metal, affordable and full of delicious flavors instead of harmful chemicals, Fume awaits. Will you join our audience members who I'm hearing from who are having a positive experience? Start the year off right with the good habit by going to tryfume.com/sacred. That's tryfum.com/sacred. And getting the journey pack today. Fume is giving listeners of Sacred Symbols 10% off when they use our code SACRED to help make starting the good habit that much easier. Again, that's tryfume.com/sacred for Fume's revolutionary flavored air device. Alright, let's get into some things here. Start sad and solemn as we sometimes do. Robbie wrote in. He said, "Hey dudes, the holidays gave me a bit of a shock in the form of a separation from my wife. Now I'm lacking the drive to play any games or do much of anything as I process what the hell is happening. What advice do you have for a partially broken man to enjoy his hobbies again?" Whew, that's tough. The holidays, separation, what happened? I feel like I need more information, Robbie. You know?
Yeah.
Because your outlook on this, frankly, depends a lot on how it occurred, in my opinion. You know? Were you deceived and like left in the lurch? Because if so, then you have to fucking rally right now. You got to rally and get out of the hole. But if you were the executor of the separation and you're just shook by it, then that's kind of a different feeling, in my opinion. We always say, in fact, on the show when we talk about relationships, it's almost harder to be the person that breaks up with someone than to be broken up with because you have no choice. So I feel like that we need more information on this. It's a very sad situation. You said a bit of a shock in the form of a separation from my wife, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chris, what did he do? What did Robbie do?
I don't know, man. I think you just have to sit in the boredom for a really, really long time until you just can't stand it.
Right.
And then you just you're just sort of like forced to be like, well, I gotta do something. You know, that's usually that's how I've experienced that a lot, where I was just like, I'll sit and do nothing, I won't have the energy, and then at a certain point I'll just like snap it. I'll be like, I gotta play something at least, or like watch something, or go outside and just do literally anything. But I don't know, man. It's a sad situation. A shock like that, like around the holidays, like that terrifies the hell out of me. This is the kind of shit that like keeps me afraid of that entire chapter of life. Quite frankly, I'm just like, oh my god, I don't want to deal with this ever if I can avoid it. Yeah. Good lord.
Yeah. What is your? We don't talk about it very often on the show. Like, what is your status right now? Are you dating?
I'm looking around.
Yeah.
You know,
Shopping.
Looking under rocks. Shopping around.
I don't know. I'm at a point where it's like, yeah, I would like to maybe accelerate into the next point in life, but also like, that's terrifying. And that's a lot of weight and trust to put in another individual for a very, 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 very long time. Where like I don't know, man. I don't even know if this planet will be here in 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
so
it's I hear you. There's probably a woman listening to this right now, one of the 10 that listen to the show, and she's like, "Oh, Chris is available. It's gonna happen for you. You know, some beautiful woman is gonna fall out of the sky into your lap."
No, I've got an eye on something, but I don't know yet.
I see. Okay, good. Shopping around, figuring things out. It's very exciting. All right. Robbie, is for you not so exciting.
Yeah, sorry, Robbie. Oh, fuck. Welcome to Sacred Symbols.
Oh, God. Robbie, keep your head up. You don't have to provide more information if you don't want to. It's really not necessary at all, in fact. But
Well, what I was going to say, Colin, is that he needs to... I think it's okay to just take time to process. It is still, you said it happened over the holidays, undescript time, but it's only January 11th. I'm not saying to sit around forever and wallow, but a major shock has happened to you. It's going to take some time to figure out what your life looks like now and figure out what your next course of action is. And, maybe eventually in a little bit, the games will be a comfort. But I think you don't need to be afraid of maybe just taking it easy for a little bit. The games will be here for you when you need them.
get lost in eventually, you're not ready yet, I guess, but eventually you'll get lost in a game. You'll be thankful that it took your mind off of it. I think of Greg Miller and Infamous all the time with that. He got divorced from his first wife when Infamous came out, and he wrote a really popular editorial that was pretty well known at the time on IGN about how that game helped him survive that. And I wonder if you'll find a similar path for yourself through it, Robbie. But be well. Sorry for laughing at you. Jordan Faldudo wrote in and said, no pressure. He has a request. But can Chris please start saying, I hope World Peace will get released this year? He needs to start using those powers for the good of mankind. The world is indeed falling apart. How far do your powers extend, Chris? Do they extend to the ethereal plane of existence itself?
I think I don't know. I feel like it's almost like dream logic, where if I'm gonna will something into existence, I have to believe in my heart that it's possible. So this is probably not gonna happen. I can't pretend like world peace is achievable.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, so
it's really not. So
sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. The United States' only chance: isolation. Let's go. Let's go. We should.
Yeah.
They keep talking about the wall in Mexico. Let's just build a wall around the whole fucking country, like the ice wall in the Game of Thrones. You know, and you have to fly over it. Maybe a little connection to the village where you live an isolated life outside of the rest of the world.
Yeah.
People should play Twin Breaker. It's about a future where the United States becomes isolated from a world war that everyone else fights, and so everyone else kills themselves, and then the United States invests in this crazy space program and goes to space, and somehow Chris and I are in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Somehow we're in it. Somehow Palpatine returned.
It's something that's the classic right there. I mean, I did it before that.
Yeah.
You know? It's funny though, because it all spawned from Please Protect Chris, which was a prototype that Barry was working on. That was a brawler starring Chris. And so I still want to get back to that at some point.
It's funny. It's a funny idea.
Yeah. The whole idea was Chris trying to get to a podcast recording, but he had to fight his way through Los Angeles. Like all these different funny things would happen on his way to Santa Monica. But it never came to be. All right. Nick Cage Stan wrote in. Says, hey there, Cockboys. This question is mostly for Colin. As we the listeners know, you are a diehard Jets fan. I am a football fan myself, more college than pro, and I was always wondering, how do native New Yorkers choose which team to root for when there are two teams for each sport in the greater New York area? How do you choose between the Jets and the Giants, the Yankees and the Mets, the Islanders and the Rangers? Thank you for the great content. Keep up the amazing work. It's a common question. And the answer is that there aren't really two teams for each sport. It is territorial, though there is plenty of crossover between them. So Long Island really has its own teams, per se. And those are the Jets, the Mets, the Nets, and the Islanders in their respective sports. The Nets moved to New Jersey, and then they moved to Brooklyn. But the Nets actually began as an ABA team on Long Island in Nassau Coliseum, the exact place where the Islanders started playing back in 1972. So the Mets used to play at Shea Stadium, now they play at Citibank, that's in Queens, that's on Long Island. The Jets used to play in the Polo Grounds, that was on Long Island. Then they moved to Shea Stadium, that was on Long Island. It doesn't exist anymore. Then they moved actually to New Jersey, which is where they play now, where the Giants also play. The Islanders play in Nassau County on Long Island. So that's how you basically select the teams. But the important thing to remember is that there's tons of crossover, especially in certain sports. There are a lot of Ranger fans on Long Island. There are a lot of Giants fans on Long Island. There are Yankees fans on Long Island. I was a Yankee fan, and a lot of that is also inspired by birth. I should be a Mets fan, but I'm not. I'm a Yankees fan, although I'm very passive, and that comes from my parents. So if you go back, and their parents really, a lot of it, and Chris would know this especially, a lot of it still goes back to the Brooklyn Dodgers. And the Dodgers, who play in LA now, used to play in Brooklyn, and they moved. It was the first famous case of a team leaving and going somewhere else, and people freaking out. The Mets came in that vacuum, and so a lot of people, not only on Long Island, are Mets fans, but people who were fans of the Dodgers but didn't want to become Yankees fans became Mets fans. So there's all sorts of weird shit like that going on. The Nets playing in Jersey for so long picked up a bunch of New Jersey fans. So now there are a bunch of Devils fans in New Jersey, like Ramon, who are also Nets fans. It's complicated, but it really is territorial in its own way. Really, the Giants, the Yankees, the Rangers, who I fucking hate. I hate the Rangers. I hate the Rangers so much. I hate them so much. Those are really New York City's teams. Yeah, the Knicks. The Knicks and the Rangers play in Madison Square Garden in the center of New York City.
Yeah.
The Islanders play on Long Island. So like they're not both really New York teams. One is a New York City team, one is a Long Island team. I hope that explains it. I know this has nothing to do with you guys, and it's probably a boring thing, but people ask this and wonder this so much. That is the answer.
Yeah.
It's not and so there's all sorts of crossover. I knew Yankee fans, I knew Mets fans, I knew Ranger fans who I hated, I knew Islanders fans, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I remember growing up, the Yankees and the Giants were like a big. I didn't really know why or care. But
yeah, in Westchester and in upstate New York and kind of that southern part of Connecticut, they're really New York City sports fans.
Right. Yeah. Westchester. That's where my family was. It's in Yonkers. So I don't know. I've been thinking about it. I'm so upset that I didn't pick it up when I was just in New York. But I said before I left, I was like, I gotta get a Yankee hat. I should. Because just for heritage reasons. I never picked it up. Maybe I'll go pick it up when we're back in town for the show, I guess.
The Yankee stuff
boys
for
are
you.
back.
The boys are back in town.
The boys will be back in town. Well, you two, because you're New York boys. I'll just be there.
Yeah, I want to be clear, like, and this isn't a Long Island supremacist thing, but I don't really consider myself a New Yorker. Because that to me implies, I'm from New York. I love New York. I was born and raised in New York, but Long Island is its own thing.
Yeah, it's a separate entity.
So,
because also fucking like people don't really understand. Like it's weird how close it is, but also like how far. It's almost like the distance between the city and like Long Island from like a spiritual perspective is almost the same thing as like you in Santa Monica and me in Burbank in
right,
LA.
Totally.
Like we're close, but like you might as well be in a different state. Really, it's crazy.
The problem with Long Island is there's really only very limited ways on and off the island, and it's so crowded. And
yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, I hope that answers the question. So tons of crossover and all of that, but it's not just a pressure cooker mix of teams. Like, it's not really like that. That's not really how it works. If you're a Jets fan, there's a really good chance you're an Islanders fan. There's a really good chance you're a Mets fan. There's a really good chance you're a Nets fan. And so on and so forth. Okay. Chris Evans wrote in. Isn't that a famous person? Chris Evans?
Yeah, that's Lucas Lee from Scott Pilgrim and also Captain America, I guess.
Captain America, okay. That's what I was thinking of. Right. Hey, CDC. This one is mostly for Colin, but we'll love to hear from Dustin and Chris as well. I'm surprised you don't want to hear from Chris more than me about this, so we're going to all talk about this. Some big news from the YouTube and gaming world came this week as Matt Pat from Game Theory has decided to retire from hosting on his channel and hand off those duties to others on his team. This hit particularly hard for me as he was really my entry into YouTube and gaming-centered media and entertainment. This got me pondering on whether you yourself have ever thought about a time in the future where you might like to hang it up and what a Colin-less LSM or Sacred Symbols might look like. Thanks for everything you guys do. So I saw this circulating. He was actually trending on Twitter, #1.
Yeah.
I have to admit this. I know the name Game Theory and all that, and it's not like a hipster thing. It just goes to show you how big the space is and how vast it is. I really have no fucking idea who this person is. And I actually watched the first video I ever saw of his was his goodbye video. And I kind of scrolled through it and listened to it, and it was interesting. So it just goes to show you, and he was way bigger than anything I've ever done, but there's just so many people doing this stuff. It's amazing. Yeah. And they are eventually going to, and they've already, it already kind of happened. I mean, I don't know if this is totally true, but Lacey kind of, your ex and a mutual friend of ours kind of retired from YouTube right after being mega famous on the platform. That happens to people, and people move on. I think about with athletes, it's kind of, athletes are interesting, right? Because they get forced out by the game, but the game never really forces you out because it's all self-starting. You'll just start to decline into irrelevance. And I think a lot of people have to ask themselves if they want to stick around for that. And it seemed like he kind of had timing to go out on top. A lot of athletes do not go out on top. A lot of athletes have horrible, like, it's not like Peyton Manning when he won the Super Bowl and then retired. For every one of those, there's a million of these guys trying to hang on one year too many and washing out, getting hurt, having a horrible thing. Even people like Russell Wilson potentially playing themselves out of being in the Hall of Fame, or considered for the Hall of Fame by how long they've stayed around, which is so interesting. And so I wanted to ask you, Chris, about this and how you felt about it. Specifically, if you ever think about when you know it's time to hang it up, because the one thing I know is that I don't want to hang around to see my own obsolescence. And that will happen. I've said that many times to people in my family where they're like, oh, you have this great thing going and I'm like, I hope it lasts forever. I mean, that would be awesome, but that's not really the way entertainment works. And you have to kind of know how to, revolutionize yourself, reinvent yourself, stay around, provide talent. Maybe we're going to be one of those rarefied things that stay around for decades. But I'm also in my mind prepared to know that one day it might not happen for me anymore. And so this guy seems to have understood that at a very high level, which I can respect. So I'm wondering what you think.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. I didn't necessarily watch a lot of Game Theory, but I watched some videos a long time ago. So I've been familiar with him for a while. There was always that joke where that's just a theory. Yeah. And we were always, but yeah, I mean, he's been doing it a long time. I'm surprised he did it this long, to be quite honest with you. I thought he would have booked it ages ago. But he was just in that Five Nights at Freddy's movie as like a cameo thing. I know that. And I think now is probably a good time. It's interesting because we're really only now in the wave of people who have been around for that long, who started in that time period. Not necessarily like 2008. Like a lot of the people who were around in 2008 and popping in 2008 have already retired by now. Like I think, I don't know if Lacey retired. She just kind of stepped away. Like she wanted to do like actual like education stuff. Right. But she was around for a long time before that, and it's like there seems to be like a time frame, right? Where, now the people who were popping up in 2013 are, it's 10 years. It's like, I'm good. It seems about right. I don't know. It's. I can't pretend like it affected me because I wasn't like a massive fan or anything. I respect him, but like,
right. But I wonder if it just made you reflective of your own career. Because I think I'm very self-aware of that. I don't know. Maybe you're not. Maybe it's not even self-awareness because you not being that is an insult. That's not what I really mean. But this kind of thought of it, I think about that. I know I'm on some sort of clock. The only thing I can't see are the numbers. But I know the clock is there. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, it's like looking at your health bar. Yeah, you know it's there theoretically, but like ooh. But I don't know. I think about it sometimes, but I've also been so aware of just how drastically things have shifted for me and how I've gone from one thing to another. Like I started doing music, and then I started doing commentary, and then I started doing comedy, and then I started doing this, like podcasting. So like, I don't know. Like I'm not really that worried because I feel like I can just kind of do whatever I want. And like as long as I can make a living for myself, I'm fine. Like I don't really care about being so relevant that I'm trending or anything. Like that's never been important to me. In fact, it's always been the thing that I like the least about doing any of this. Was like I would have preferred to be behind the camera in the first place. And the only reason I was in front of it is because I didn't have anything else from other people to edit and like fuck around with. So like I can take or leave any of the relevance really. Like it makes no difference to me. As long as I can still make a living doing the stuff that I'm good at and stuff that I want to do. Like maybe I'll do music. Going forward. Like I don't know.
Well, it's funny because I almost in my mind interconnect the ability to make a living with the relevance part of it, because that's just a sliding scale. Like, yeah, I agree with you in the sense that I've said it before, I'm a fastidious saver. I like living below my means. I always prepare for the worst thing. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I've always lived like that. It's a really unpleasant thing because it kind of never lets you live in the moment, but I've prepared my life in such a way where I'm trying to make it so that if I can wash out or whatever and be okay at some point, right? And but I hope that I get the choice to make that pull as opposed to being forced by the market to that. Although I don't know, Dustin, I want to get you in here. Like, there's this other idea that there are entertainers and performers that just stay around forever, or just keep doing what they do. And because we've made these micro communities online, it really is up to us, and there is kind of a wide berth. This is kind of what Chris is saying, like a wide berth of popularity where you can still extract a living out of a much smaller footprint, and that's what we do now. I reach orders of magnitude fewer people doing this show than I did at IGN. Like, not even fucking close to the amount of people, but that doesn't matter because we've been able to monetize it and make a good living on it. And so maybe that just never goes away. And I don't know. And you're younger. You're Chris's age, or around Chris's age, but you have been in this the least amount of time. So your mind's probably not even remotely in this space, on the other hand. Because I've been in the space for 22 years.
Right.
And that's just it goes back to the 90s. But stuff I've been like since I've been a professional. It's crazy, 22 years. So you do start to think about it a little bit at that point.
Yeah. Well, I think Colin, I'm in a similar mental space, and I've talked about this before, where I'm always thinking about what my next move is if the shoe drops for some reason. Something happens, you know, we've joked about if you were to die and then we can't make the company work, what do I do? So I understand that headspace. I think that what's cool about MatPat, and also this also happened to that YouTuber Tom Scott, if you guys know him.
Yeah.
He uploaded every week for 10 years, and he did an awesome video where he was like, this is it. He let people knew in advance that he was going to retire, and then at the end of the video he joked, he's like, you know, I thought about making this sappy and then going off into the sunset, and you know what, I'm going to do that. And then he strapped himself to a helicopter that suspended him, and they flew him into the sunset. It's an awesome video. But in both of their cases, what was really wise about how they've done things is that they both set up really successful brands and companies. And so while MatPat is retiring, he's still going to be involved in his company and be helping plan videos. And he mentioned that Going Away video that he's getting into doing like a lo-fi horror series on YouTube. So he is mainly just retiring from game theory. And maybe, Colin, that's kind of the answer that someday for you is that ideally you set up something, you set up a formula and a brand, and eventually you can kind of let it go and still, you know, I mean, you gather money from it, gather, you know, influence, whatever, let it go, and then you can kind of focus on other things. I think that's kind of like the ideal situation. But yeah, it's funny, you know, Chris, you were saying about how these are 2013 YouTubers that are now at the point where they're moving on, and it's funny and it's sad that it's like YouTube, and this isn't even, I mean, we're in a different space than these guys, but it's such a grind mentality that if you truly want to be great, and if you truly want to not just make some money but a lot of money, you need to give your entire life to it. And the format's always changing. And I think about these two guys, I'm like, these dudes worked so hard for so long. And MatPat, he mentioned that video that Game Theory's most successful month was like last month or something. So, you know, these things don't happen overnight. And so when I see that in him retiring and like being able to like oversee things and kind of take on creative projects, I'm like, good for him. He hustled. He made 4 incredibly successful channels over however long he's been doing it, and yeah, good for him to be able to step away like that. But I think it's only certain scenario or certain cases of people that can do that, because a lot of times with the way YouTube's set up, it's like, yeah, you might be able to make money off the residuals, but unless you got a lot saved or something going on that you can oversee, then it's over. So it's an interesting situation to see these people retire. I'm guessing that more are along the way. It's kind of that time where if you've got the money or if you've got the system, maybe you're tired of giving your entire life for that long, and you want to be able to, I don't know, MatPat talks about, he's like, I want to be a dad for a bit because I give every waking moment to my channels. And
he said something really, really cogent that I thought that really struck me actually in the part of the video I watched, where he was saying that he and his wife, who I guess worked together, and had like kind of did all this together. It's like, well, I'm married to our coordinator, and he said something like, well, I'm sick of having dinner and we're talking about like business and all that. I'm like, yeah, that kind of is what happens to Micah and I already. And our business is so much smaller and it's growing, but it will come. It's like dominating our relationship in some facets, and you do have to accept that because it is good money and it's a good living and you want to earn it and it's fun and it's an honor and it's all those things, right? Like,
absolutely.
So but I know that feeling of being like, yeah, when is it time? And I'm nowhere. I feel personally nowhere near that time as a creator, specifically because I don't know what I would do. Like trust me, if I had like some really great idea where it's like, this is your new calling, you're gonna become a fucking Benedictine monk, you know, or whatever the hell it is, and then you go off and you do that thing, it's like, well, I don't have that. I don't know. I kind of love video games, you know, like I love PlayStation. I love talking about games and playing them and analyzing them. I love the industry. And so there is no answer to that. And until there's an answer to that, that's not even really something that I'm thinking about, like shutting it off. But I do, to your point, Dustin, think about the diversification of the company and how important that is. And I think we're more diverse than ever. And I don't mean by race or gender or anything like that, although we're diverse there too. But I mean in terms of like who's doing what and what relies on me. And actually, you know, almost half our programming really is not about me at all. It has nothing to do with me. And so the balance is kind of coming into that frame, like you're saying, where I can maybe step back one day and become truly just the CEO of a much bigger media company, or go and focus on Little Mo for a while, or do something else. But I don't. It's funny. This is fucking dark, but I sometimes have this thought. It's not dark. I mean, it makes sense. You have people like Gene and Hogue, our buddies and our good friends, getting sick, you know, and you know, lethally sick, right? And I think about that, and I was like, damn, what would happen if I got cancer and it's like I was in chemo or I was doing this kind of stuff, and I'd probably be down and out. It would be a horrifying situation, and knowing my own mind, I'd probably be so scared and everything like that. But part of me was like, even in that situation, I'd like to think you would just still do Sacred Symbols every week. Even if I didn't write it or host it or something like that, like I would still just, because it's part of you after a while. I imagine it's like the way Letterman felt when he left CBS, or the way Leno, I mean, we know Leno felt that way when he left NBC. There was all that drama around it. Yeah. About not being able to do something else, about not knowing what else to do. And if you're a fan of the show, it's almost like where you want your creator, the creator like me to be, is like in a space where I feel pretty happy in my life and I feel productive, and I don't really see like there's anything on the horizon that would indicate that we would stop, you know? So yeah, but I'm definitely reflective of that eventuality. And I know it. That's why I love the analogy of the clock, in which you know you're on the clock, but you simply cannot see the numbers. Or maybe you can't see the hands, however you want to use the analogy. Maybe you just can't see the hands. Maybe the numbers are there. You can't see the hands. So, great question, Chris Evans, and great job as Captain America.
Yeah.
By the way. Nathan, your Urquidez, help me with this one. Chris, do you want to say this one?
That's a unique name. I've never seen that name.
Urquidez, let's say that.
Yeah,
it's Urquidez. Sounds
Yeah.
Hispanic to me, or Spanish, whatever. I don't know what the right term is.
Yeah, Urquidez. It's probably, yeah, whatever.
What was it? Ramon said something to me where I'm really cognizant of the word Hispanic now, because I think we were talking back and forth. And I'm like, oh, like, so, you know, it was something about him being Hispanic, and then he said to me, oh, I want to be referred to as Latino now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I never even really thought about the difference. Okay.
Yeah.
So now every time I say the word Hispanic, I'm like, am I using the right word?
It's fine. Yeah. It's really about. I can't remember exactly, because it's so funny because it comes up so rarely, because a lot of my friends and family are that, so we never have to refer to it in that way. It never comes up. But I think the Latino refers to if you speak Spanish, basically. But even that's an interpretation. So like, it's whatever. It depends on the person individually.
Yeah, because I guess
like I'm fine with both, really. Like,
is Hispanic for Hispaniola? Like, I guess that would be what it was. Which isn't that what they called Cuba or something back in the? I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't get lost in these weeds. I just wanted to say that I have no idea what word I'm supposed to use anymore.
Okay,
all right, so yeah.
So here it is. Hispanic refers to a person with ancestry from a country whose primary language is Spanish. Latino and its variations refer to a person with origins from anywhere in Latin America, Mexico, South or Central America, and the Caribbean.
Okay, gotcha.
So like, you can be both technically.
Right. Because really, the modern day, like the conquistadors were white. You know? I guess with remnants of the.
But white is Spanish still. Like, it's like,
right. That's what I'm saying. But
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. In our hemisphere, we look at Spanish or Hispanic as like darker skinned, but that's from the indigenous population, I think. And I think Latino speaks to the melding of those two things. I'm way too white to be talking about this, though. I have no idea. Nathan, back to you. He says, hey guys, just letting you know that you have at least 2 Sacred Symbols listeners at Geico. I was wearing my Sacred Symbols t-shirt in the break room and had an awesome moment with a fellow listener. Just thought I'd let you know that your scope of influence has reached the world of auto insurance, and we're listening to you while walking the aisles next to pictures of British geckos. Please give a shout out to Cody. Take care. Cody, shout out to you. Cody at Geico, from Nathan at Geico. Very cool. Love that. Hope we're not being too distracting.
Yeah.
If you were feel free to play us out loud at Geico.
Yeah,
in
very
your office.
loudly.
Yeah.
Also, I can't help it. Like, I mean, it's a nice ride-in, but what does this do for me? You gonna get me free insurance?
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
nice. It's like our guy at Adidas that like hooked us up
Yeah.
with, like we need. That's a great point. We need insurance rates.
His
Nathan.
car
A nice
insurance-
sentiment? No.
Yeah.
We need product. We need
Yeah,
product,
man.
okay?
No, dude, like car insurance is fucking insane. Like it's so fucking expensive for no reason. Oh god.
Oh my goodness.
Help a brother out, you know?
I have saved not owning a car for all these years so much money.
Oh yeah.
Just
Easily.
no way. No.
But without a car, if you lose everything, where are you gonna live? See, that's your little. See that? You see now you fucked up.
This is why I
Gotcha.
watch Steve Wallace on YouTube so I can learn how to stealth camp in the most unusual places.
I actually, unironically, and this is like a real thought that I've had. Like, I thought about just getting a van and just like renovating the hell out of it, like a big like
Van
like an
life.
RV or something. Because like I have friends who do that, who like are loaded because they just don't spend money on
Right.
like anything that like the vast majority of like deep costs that the average person has just like having a home or even just like having an apartment or anything else. It's like it's amazing.
Dude, rent is such a trap.
So,
it's horrible.
and they're so happy. They're so it's crazy. And they have internet. They have everything that they need.
Right.
I don't know. It's a real. I've been thinking about it because it's like that doesn't sound like a bad thing at all. Especially to be able to drive your house wherever the fuck you want.
I watch those videos.
Yeah.
On YouTube. There's this old guy that like does these, basically has people on the show and they give you a tour of their thing, and some of them are like, Mike and I make fun of them because some of them are like, how you can live in a fucking Honda Civic or something. I'm like, dude, you're homeless and you live in your car. But
Yeah,
then there are
that's
people that like
yeah.
live in a bus with like beautiful like $500,000 build out or whatever on it, and
Right.
everything in between, and it does sound very romantic, you know, like
Yeah.
and I don't mean like romance with the word. I mean
nomadic
just like
almost.
romantic. Yeah, like you're just nomad and you got Starlink and all these things to like keep you connected, and you're just living out there, and you got solar panels, and I don't know, there is something cool about that, but and you do probably save a lot of money. To me, if I were younger and in a different position, it's like I would look at that as saying like, I'm going to do this for 2 or 3 years and just stash all of my money and use
Yeah.
that as a down payment on a house or something.
Right.
And that
right.
would be my plan. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to do that in perpetuity, because the sad thing is you see a lot of like, what we don't use this term in the United States, but like pensioners, where it's like old people basically living on Social Security. And
Yeah.
what if you can get to that point and you have a little bit of money put away and you're kind of in good shape, you can kind of just live on your $1,500 a month or $2,000 a month from Social Security and just be like, okay, I live in a fucking RV and I'm just hanging out, drinking past.
It would never be a in perpetuity thing, but like I don't know, like I looked at it for like maybe for like 5 years. That'd be kind of cool. Like, and you'd save and it's just an interesting. I don't know. There's something really fascinating about it that's like weirdly alluring to me. It speaks to, like, I feel like I have a sense of adventure, but I don't want to be camping in the fucking woods. You know what I mean? So it'd be cool to just like drive in basically a studio apartment to like the woods or like a mountain or like fucking any city. I don't know. That's appealing as hell to me. So
And when shit goes off the rails, you'll have a place to be. You know,
just speed away.
unless the EMP goes off, you got to get like an older vehicle that doesn't require.
Well, there's way bigger problems if that's the case, then.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not even really remotely worried about the RV. If an EMP goes off, it takes out every single electronic on the eastern seaboard or fucking the entire country, you know?
My dad dead ass has an old car. Like, he has a few old cars because he likes old cars, but he has a car like specifically for that reason. Put in his garage in case the EMP goes off, like earnestly.
You say you're not a
Now
New
you
York-
understand where I come from. You know?
You say you're not a New Yorker, but you said dead ass in earnest.
Yeah, that's true. Dead ass is like an interesting term, isn't it? All right, let's move on. Nathan, thank you for writing in. All right, news. Smaller news items. Although this first one this is like I don't know, man. What is going on with people out there? And the way that they speak to other people on the internet and towards other people and about other people. like totally unprompted for no reason whatsoever, just for existing. I understand if you go after people or are a little upset about people because they're assholes or they do this or that or the other thing, but a person just existing and just doing their work or whatever. So Kotaku wrote about this, but a lot of other websites did as well. Stephanie Tyler Jones was an actress and model. She's actually not working anymore. She does like other stuff now, but she is the face model for MJ in Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, and presumably Miles Morales, I guess, as well, though she's not really in that. And she wrote this really distressing thing on Instagram that I wanted to talk about just briefly. She wrote, "Dear Spider-Man fans, I appreciate the love for my role in the Spider-Man games and the positive response to my version of MJ has gotten over the years. However, I am no longer an actively auditioning actor or model. The shoots I do now are purely a creative outlet for myself and a way to collaborate with friends I love. Over the weekend, some followers crossed boundaries. One even went to the extent of calling my workplace and leaving multiple voicemails wanting to speak with me and requesting I call back, which is unacceptable and considered stalking. My skincare page is not for Spider-Man or MJ fans. Bottom line is that I came into work this morning and immediately felt unsafe and uncomfortable hearing these voicemails. Please respect that I am a human being trying to make a living just like you, and I kindly ask for boundaries not to be crossed. Messages will not be answered. I will block you if this makes you feel uncomfortable, and you can unfollow me if this disappoints you. Thank you." It's not to say that this is like the end quote. It's not to say that this is like the end of the world or whatever. It's just to say, use this as a reminder that the person that you're aiming things at is a real person, that it's peculiar that she would want to hear from you, where she is featured in a game played by tens of millions of people, that you are the one that needs to talk, that you're the one that needs to follow up and try to get in touch with people. People need to learn boundaries. One of the unfortunate things about the internet is that it's made people feel way too comfortable with people that they do not know. The unfortunate reality is that a lot of the things we do are one-way streets, and that sucks, because it would be really cool if it wasn't that way, but it is that way. And so you can't assume that someone knows you like you know them, or the assumptions you make about them are accurate or whatever. I just don't, when I saw this, I was like, this is so strange that someone needs to say something like this. So it's not to make a mountain out of a molehill, it's just to say, use it as a reminder if you're one of the weird ones out there. Some of you are out there, you know? Anything to say about this before we move on?
This is about presumably, like, what were they spamming her about?
It's
like,
unclear. Just in the, maybe for an interview, maybe, I don't know. She's unclear about that. But just,
I think I know what it is. I think I know it's people being weird about, oh, she doesn't look great in the game.
Oh yeah, because they like, right. Everyone was saying that they made MJ look like one of the writers or whatever.
Yeah, this bothers me for so many reasons, but not the least of which is there probably is a real conversation to be had. It's like, why are certain studios so good at translating their actors into their engines, and why are certain studios kind of bad at it? Because I do think it's objectively true that MJ looks weird in Spider-Man 2. I think also, like, a lot of the characters in Spider-Man 2 look just a little bizarre, to be frank with it. And there's a real conversation to be had there. It's like, I wonder why certain studios are really good at that. Like, I was actually watching gameplay of or cutscenes of Mortal Kombat 1, and I was actually like stunned by how good, like, the translation of, like, actor to in-game model was. Like, I was just like, wow, this is, like, really fucking incredible. Like, everybody looks like real, and then you look at the actors and it's like, yeah, that looks like them. And then I can't help but, like, be aware of the fact that when you look at this actress and look at the model of MJ, it's like, something's lost in translation here. I don't know exactly what it is. And it bothers me because that's actually a genuine conversation that you could have, but you can't have it without having this weird, almost like light that attracts these weird moths. They're like, yeah, she's fucking ugly. Let's go tell her. It's like that's not what this is about, though. And I don't know. It bothers me that it limits conversations that we can have because it just, like, it acts as like a beacon for freaks. That I really lament that about the internet lately, where I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I would like to make fun of or like lampoon or even just make videos about that I feel like I don't even want to deal with the audience that this is going to attract. So I just won't do this.
Yep, I agree with you. We'll get into it a little bit later, but I feel like you can really see it on Twitter, especially with just the...
Yeah.
It's, in some ways, a more dynamic and interesting place than ever, but it's a place where I couldn't imagine being a participant anymore. It's like not even an option, really, because it's so... It's good as a consumer, if that's what you're looking for. But it's, I don't know, Twitter's lost its two-way street shit as well, I think, in some way, which made it special. But Dustin, do you have anything you want to add before we move on?
I have no envy for people that are in the spotlight, I guess. And it's funny because we have a small niche amount of notoriety, and that's like the perfect amount where we're able to be totally normal. Sure, every once in a while someone will message us something stupid, but yeah, it sucks that that's the reality, is that you could have the opportunity to be Mary Jane in one of the biggest games ever. And, you know, that should be nothing but a positive experience. But then you have morons that go and do crazy, stupid stuff. And I don't know, there's really, it sounds defeatist. It's like, well, there's nothing you can do about it because there's always going to be morons and creepy people and weirdos. But I guess the only thing we can say on this show with the platform we have is like, don't do that. You're being weird. Don't be weird.
Stop being weird, I guess, is the message. That most people don't need to hear that message, but some people do need to hear it. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's kind of silly because part of what makes the internet fun is the memes and the chicanery and all of that, but it requires like a better caliber of like of principle as well to use to like make it better overall. So like we know where everyone's coming from, but I just think that that's hoping it's going to detract to the lowest common denominator, like no doubt. So we're just in that reality as it adjusts, I guess. But stop harassing MJ.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to some other news here. Video Games Chronicle wrote about this. This is interesting. So the CES Consumer Electronics Show just occurred. CES used to be before E3. I mean, it's existed concurrent, and E3 is gone. CES existed before and after, and might really take the role in some way of these. I was thinking about that recently. Of some of these companies like Sony that have a big presence at CES every year, they might use that more to say more about games than they typically would. If I recall, I'd have to look this up, and I'm pretty sure Nintendo PlayStation was revealed at CES, right? Like in 1991, something like that. So it's an interesting little connection there. Nonetheless, at CES, they noted during a press conference, it's Sony's press conference, in which they showed a car, by the way, that Honda's making with Sony, in which it could be controlled by a DualSense controller. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Oh my God.
But and they drove it onto the stage with the DualSense controller.
And then the battery ran out.
And the battery ran out.
It was really embarrassing.
And so that's what happened to the Titan sub probably as well, unfortunately. Yeah. Oh, poor Titan sub. I still can't believe that they went all the way down there in that little rickety thing nonetheless. PlayStation had 123 million active users on the PlayStation Network in December of 2023. This is an all-time high. And according to PlayStation, this clocks people that went on PlayStation Network and played a game or used a service. So played a game or used Netflix or YouTube or whatever. Dude, that's awesome. 123 million users, including a few million stragglers, as we noted a few days ago, or a few weeks ago when we were talking about the Insomniac leak, about the fact that people are still on PS3 as well, by a couple million, few million. So shout out 123 million active users on PSN in December, an all-time high. But speaking of controllers, I don't know if you guys saw this make the rounds. Push Square wrote about it, although many other outlets did as well. On Best Buy Canada's website, something was posted called a PlayStation 5 V2 DualSense wireless controller for $90 Canadian. So that's probably still going to be $70 or $75 US. And there are certain things here, the little bullet points or whatever. It says the stuff you would expect. Compatible with PS5, dynamic adaptive triggers, but there's two things that people noted. DualSense charging station included, offers easy click-in charging, and more importantly, exceptional 12-hour battery life on a full charge, supports long gaming sessions. Dustin, no more dusty DualSense. Perhaps this is an interesting leak. I don't know if they would announce this during on a PlayStation blog post, or if this would be something you'd fold into a state of play or something, but here it is. People are wondering if this is an accident. I mean, I'm sure it's an accident if they publish it. They wouldn't make this up out of nowhere. So DualSense V2, any interest?
This frustrates me. I mean, I'm glad because it is much needed, but it shouldn't have been needed in the first place. And the reason why I'm frustrated in particular is that last year I bought a DualSense Edge, and I would very much like to have a bigger battery. Dude, I know that I have the docking cradle thing, so I get it. You know, when you're done playing, put it on there. But man, the DualSense Edge, if you don't have one, if you just have a regular controller and you think the battery life is bad, boy. And you're paying $200 for a controller that is the experience is turning on your PlayStation and then seeing the one bar left. That's the experience of having a DualSense Edge, which, don't get me wrong, I love having it because I love having the back buttons in particular. That makes it basically essential for me now, that I love having those so much. But I guess this is a good thing. So for everyone who's bought DualSense, bought your different colors, and now you want better battery life, well, fuck you, I guess. Go buy this other one. And interesting that it includes the charging station. It makes me wonder, $90. So the standard DualSense right now is is it 60 or 70?
I think it's 70. I got my newest one for 45 because it was on sale on PlayStation Direct.
Yeah.
But I think I'll look real quick, but I think it's $70.
I think it's 70, yeah.
Nice. That seems like it could be a decent value that it includes that as well, because I consider that an essential purchase of all PS5 owners to get that charging station, because plugging in your controller all the time directly to the console or any other thing like that is really annoying, and the charger's nice. So the fact that it includes that is good. But yeah, dude, it's so funny too. Think about all the people that just got the Slim PlayStation. They're like, oh sweet, I'm good to go. I've got new controller, better PlayStation, and now there's going to be a better DualSense, which I guess that's available. I wonder, will the PS5 Pro include the better DualSense?
Yeah, that would be nice. That'd be interesting. By the way, I looked this up. White and black controllers standard are $70.
Okay, so you're paying 20 more.
Yeah, the nice, like the ones with the different colors are 75 for some reason.
The tax, the color tax.
The color tax.
Color tax, yeah.
They had to pay for the dye.
Red is $5.
Red.
Crazy. Crazy if you think about it.
But yeah, what do you think, Chris?
No, I mean, good. They need this. It's very jarring. We'll talk about it a little bit into what we're playing, but I'm playing certain games on PlayStation right now, and then I'm bouncing back between, PS5 and Series X for, GTA 4 and some of the games that I'm trying to platinum right now. And it really is night and day with controller battery. Like it's honestly crazy. Like the DualSense, I had to buy 2 DualSenses just to be able to play wirelessly for a decent period of the day. Like I had to. And I swap between them at least once a day, with very little exception. It's wild. It's wild, and so they desperately need this. So I support it. It sucks for anybody who, just got it, but it's kind of like. It's kind of like anything where it's like, all right, well, we have this now. Imagine if they had the capability of building it, and then they were just like, well, it wouldn't be fair to the people who don't have it. It's just how things go. So I'm glad it's finally here. A respectable battery life for this fucking thing.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna just phase out these controllers and make this just the new standard over time. And
they should.
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense. I have to say though, I have experience in rare moments bad battery life on DualSense, and I know that it does have bad battery life, but maybe it's because I act in cognizance of it, but I always just, like, when I get up and I'm after playing for a few hours and I'm like, I'm gonna go make something to eat or just go dick around on my phone for a few minutes, I just plug the controller in. I guess I'm always just cognizant of it. Whenever I'm not using the console, the controller's plugged in. It never just stays on a table or whatever.
Well,
and
yeah,
I do wonder if people do that. People do that, where they're like, it's like, plug your fucking controller in.
That's why I got my second one. The second one is always on the on the plug, and then like if I'm playing with the other one, I'll play for a little bit, and then I'll shut the whole thing down, and then I'll put the normal controller on the table, because the other thing's charging. So if the other one's gonna run out of battery, then it's like, okay, well, I have a full one to switch to at a moment's notice. But I don't know. There's something about having your ready. There's something about having your Prime controller hooked up to the console all the time that just kind of sucks. You know, like I don't know, like it might be like it's a very first world problem in more ways than one, but
No, it does.
I like
it does suck. It does suck. I mean, it's not acceptable. It's the worst part of the DualSense for sure. So, yeah,
easily.
and everything on this show is a first world problem, really.
Yeah, this is the first world podcast.
Yeah,
basically.
Tell me about it. I'm looking at PlayStation Direct. So it's interesting. I'm not logged in right now, but on the PlayStation accessories thing, it has Portal and Backbone 1 next to each other and the access controller. And it says add to cart, add to cart, add to cart. But for Portal remote, it says to sign in to buy. So I wonder if you have to have like a PSN account or like there's still some sort of scarcity there. Man, some of these racing wheels are fucking expensive. Oh shit. No, this is a nice clean website. I don't really ever look at it. I'm only here when like something drops. It's a nice little website. All right, let's move on. PlayStation blog posted a couple days before we're recording. Helldivers 2 PC specifications and crossplay support details revealed. Helldivers 2 is imminent, of course, on PlayStation 5. We can't wait to play it. And at least I can. I don't know. I want to speak for anyone else. February 8th on PS5 and PC. So first of all, I saw some people complaining about this, like not knowing this, that this was happening where it was coming to PC at the same time. And I'm like, this is what first of all, I don't know why you care. Second of all, this is what you need to make these games work. It must happen. And they've telegraphed this. This is going to happen more. I would imagine Fair Games might be another one of those, or Concord or one of them. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So 2 things to talk about. One, more interesting than the other, I think, for us. More interesting for us is that Helldivers 2 supports crossplay. So PC and PS5 will be able to speak to each other now. This isn't a PvP game, so this should be good, right? There's like no reason you should not want to participate in that, right? I mean, you'll have more twitchy teammates, but they can't turn their guns on you. Or I mean, they could. It's Helldivers, I guess, but it doesn't seem like this is a big deal. So it won't unbalance the game. So there's that, but also the PC specs. And I wanted to go to you guys. Dustin, what do you think of these specs? What do they say? I mean, are you going to play on PC or PS5? And are you interested in what's going on here as we approach February 8th?
Yeah, this is a game that I will be playing on PC. That's where I play multiplayer games primarily. And everything I've seen from this game looks great. Looking at the specs, this isn't fully my area of expertise just because I kind of get really into different specs when I'm buying a computer and then kind of ignore it until I have to again. So right now my specs looks like I'll be in the 1440p 60 FPS mode with my 3080. So they seem maybe a little on the heavy side, but it's always hard to tell. And dude, with PC gaming the last few years, these specs really shouldn't, I wouldn't take them as gospel when the game comes out, because the game, anything's possible with PC games. It can come out and be complete shit and just doesn't run well for even the people that have $3,000 computers, just if it's not optimized well. But also it could be, fine. So we'll wait and see until launch. I'm definitely, any PC game, I never will pre-order a PC game ever again after how there's so many different issues that happen. I got one complaint here for, I don't know whether this is for PlayStation or for Arrowhead. If you release a PC-focused trailer, it needs to be in 60 FPS. And that actually kind of was interesting to me that maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to someone write in a correction, but I searched Helldivers to 60 FPS on YouTube. And while some of the trailers may have the YouTube marker that says 60 FPS, I haven't found any gameplay for this game in 60. Not saying that it's gonna be 30 on PlayStation, it just is odd to me. I wanna see what this thing looks like on the highest end PC with a PC trailer. And you don't even have the trailer at 60 FPS. So that's something very niche that only hardcore people are gonna care about. But it just seems the PC trailer is for the hardcore PC people. So make it look good in 60.
How are we feeling? Do we think Helldivers 2 is going to be good? And do we think it's going to do well? Chris?
I feel like it's going to be enjoyably serviceable. I don't know. There's a feeling that I have about it that I can't quite get out of my mind. And I think it's largely because of the presentation that they've done of it. Like Dustin says, it's like it's weird to not have a... It's weird that every single trailer of this game is in 30 frames, or in some ways, like, I don't know, it looks a little bit less than that sometimes. Like, when I don't know if you got that vibe too, Dustin, or I don't know if it's like the frame pacing or what, but every time I've seen it, it looked weird and jank in a way that I suspect it probably isn't, like, at the highest, settings. And I don't know. I foresee this being not necessarily a huge flash in the pan, but I expect it being... I expect it to be a fun time. I don't think it's going to be a bad game by any means, but I don't know if it's going to set the world on fire either in any real way. But I'm very curious about it. I'm definitely going to be playing it on PC. Maybe I'll stream it. I think that'll be fun.
Nice.
But
yeah, it's
let's
40,
do it,
it's gonna be
Chris.
$40 too. Yeah, you guys
we
should.
should. Yeah, let's do it. I'm totally down for that.
You know what this reminds me of, or I guess what I'm getting flashbacks to, and maybe
Returnal?
why I'm a hair cautious. What?
Returnal? Are you going to say that?
No, not Returnal. I'm worried that all the gameplay I've seen where you're running around shooting stuff, and I know they've done a deeper dive trailer showing some of the systems. I'm worried about the systems being a detractor from this game. I think about Back 4 Blood.
Yeah.
The trailers, the gameplay looked really fun, and then when you get into it, you're dealing with a card system and stuff. And I know Helldivers 2 doesn't necessarily have that, but I want to know... And again, there's that deep dive trailer. I watched that a few months ago when it came out, and so I don't remember it as much, but the gameplay of this looks great. I just hope that the things around it aren't annoying.
Yeah.
But I hope it's awesome. I think that there's just maybe a little bit of... There's a lot of unknown just because usually a multiplayer game like this, like Back 4 Blood, had betas. And so people kind of got a taste of...
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we know comparatively very little for a game that's coming out very soon, which is,
Right.
It's a point of concern. I'm not going to pretend I'm going to... I mean, like Dustin said, I'm probably not going to pre-order this. I'm going to wait to see. And if the risk seems acceptable, I'll get it and we'll stream it. Dustin and I will stream it. I think it'll be fun. But something that caught my eye, I don't know if this... So, maybe I'm reading this incorrectly, and I hope to God that I am. But under the specs infograph that they gave, right, it says storage 100 gigabytes required. HDD. 100 gigabyte SSD on the other ones. What the fuck does that mean? Does that mean that this is a 100 gigabyte game? Is that what that's suggesting to me?
Well, I guess yes.
Yeah, it's presumably...
Because I understand, like, that's what that means to me when I see that, but I also can't fucking fathom that being true for Helldivers 2. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't register to me. It's like this, how could this game possibly be 100 gigabytes?
Well, and it's a $40 game, so you kind of expect it to be... you could say it's budget pricing, so you might think it might be a budget in its
like
scope.
half. I mean, I assumed it would be like half of this.
Yeah.
I don't know. That struck me as bizarre. It's like, that's a lot of hard drive real estate to demand of people, especially on consoles that have like a very, very low amount of space to begin with. So it's, I don't know. That struck me as very bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know. That's actually a good point. I haven't seen it come up on the PlayStation Data Twitter account yet, how big the package will be on PS5 when it's uploaded. It hasn't been yet.
Yeah.
And when it gets uploaded, we'll know, and then that will probably be in people's hands. I'm sure Gene will get it. We'll probably get a little bit of early information from him, but I'll pre-order it, but I'm going to pre-order it when it's time to preload it. I'm not going to do it beforehand. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have a knowledge of this space, like the multiplayer space, really requisite to know what's going to resonate with people. I think that Sony is giving this game the best possible opportunity it has by, like the original Helldivers, putting it on PC and PS5 at the same time. And I suspect that it will do fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't read the cadence of Sony anymore because they do so few PR beats. And they do very few previews. Not that we do either of those things, but just observing them, where you can't really read into their confidence or lack of confidence in this game. I will say that they release so few games out of second party now that this is going to have a lot of attention on it, and it better be fucking good. And I think it's going to be. I think this game has been in development for so long that I really truly believe that they went in and basically like, well, let's AAA-ize this as much as possible, or AI's it, let's say. Let's get it third person truly, and all the rest. Dustin, I think you were going to say something.
Well, you bring about previews, that sparked something. I searched Helldivers 2 preview. I don't know if anyone has gone hands-on with this game at all. I'm not seeing any, like an IGN, like we played Helldivers 2, nothing. So it really is mysterious in that aspect. It kind of concerning that no one's played. I mean, people just played Suicide Squad, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing. So I wonder if they're being careful, or this is just secretive Sony.
Who knows, man? I don't know. We'll play more February 8th, and we'll have more to say probably beforehand, and maybe there'll be. I mean, we still have a little less than a month at the time we're recording, so maybe they are planning a beat at some point, and we'll have more information on it when it's closer, and they're really trying to take advantage of people pre-ordering it at that time. All right, this is a notable thing that people have been pointing to. So on PlayStation's website, there is a page called The Biggest Games Coming to PS5 in 2024, and you would expect to see a lot of the things on here. So it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which, by the way, got reviewed as the time we're recording this, and apparently is very good. I might check that out, actually. Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, and Stellar Blade, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which is right around the corner, Helldivers 2, Dragon's Dogma 2, Concord. So all these things we know. Tekken 8, Pacific Drive, Forever Skies, the casting of Frank Stone, Rise of the Ronin. But then Metal Gear Solid, Snake Eater, Delta, and Silent Hill 2 is also on this list from Bloober Team, alongside other games that we know about, Foam Stars, Grand Blue Fantasy, Relink, etc. So more telegraphing. Remember last week, Dustin, we were discussing the telegraphing of the positioning of games on this list on PlayStation Blog, where some of them had dates and some of them didn't, and they seem to be wedged in where they were expected to be released. And I think that we're going to find that is going to be true. This is another telegraph. Without really releasing a PR statement or saying much about it, we're getting confirmation of a Metal Gear Solid release this year, which we knew about. We knew about Delta, and we know it's multi-platform and all the rest, and it's Metal Gear Solid 3, reimagined, or remade. But that's coming this year, and I think more interestingly, Silent Hill 2, and there is some word out of Poland. I think a Polish publication spoke to people at Bloober Team saying that they were going to start talking soon. So how are we feeling? Maybe a little bit more fleshed out with these third-party games later in 2024.
Yeah, smells like a state of play brewing to me. Which I think there was rumors just in the last week about that, and it's kind of, I feel like it's obvious they're going to do something, maybe not a huge showcase, but start to talk about some of these games that they've got deals with to promote, both Silent Hill 2, Metal Gear. I'm not quite as sure because that was on the Xbox showcase too, so maybe I don't know what their deal is there, but yeah, it's about time. There was that story last year about Bloober Team kind of, it felt in a way passive aggressive, where they're like, we know you want to hear about it, but it's not really up to us,
right?
So it seems to be brewing. I'm skeptical actually about both of these games to a large degree. I want them to both be awesome, but we've talked on the show many times about Bloober Team's mixed track record. I know some people love some of their games, some of them not so hot, but we're talking about Silent Hill 2 here, which is many people's, like, one of their top games of all time. It's a heavy weight to carry. Are they up for it? We'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about this, Konami kind of reigniting a little bit. Obviously, Metal Gear not exclusive, but Silent Hill 2 at least timed exclusive. So it gives PS5 a little bit of pop. And yeah, you're right, Dustin. They have to start talking about when Foam Stars is coming out, when fucking Stellar Blade is coming out, and all the rest, and Concord, and they need to start talking more. So I suspect so, because they've been particularly quiet. Clearly the plans have changed materially over time to some degree. So maybe they're just, we should be talking about The Last of Us Factions right now, or The Last of Us On the Line, as we know it's called. So Chris, how are you feeling? Konami games coming en route. Are you excited?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know more about what the year looks like, I think, more than anything else. Metal Gear Solid, I'm more skeptical about Metal Gear Solid than I am about Silent Hill 2. Just because I remember playing the medium and being in the beginning of the medium, feeling like, oh, this feels like a modern Silent Hill. This is sick. And then it immediately got worse. It immediately got terrible. But it felt like it felt like Silent Hill. And so as long as they like stick to that blueprint, like I'm really not that worried about Bloober Team handling Silent Hill 2, because I really feel like the worst that they can do is write their own stuff and fuck up their own stuff. I feel like as long as they go by that blueprint, they'll be fine. Metal Gear Solid is another one where it is a main concern of mine, just because I don't know, we went over it a little bit when it was first revealed, how there's something about Snake looks like a cosplay. And like it doesn't. Something
Yeah, it was something
feels,
about his headband, right?
Well, his headbands always looked like weird. I remember a lot of renders of Snake where it looks like his eyebrows are his headband. It's like,
right. That was the conversation we were having. That's right.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's in keeping. It's just like he just doesn't look like Snake to me at all. And so like that's whatever. It's a really small nitpick, but I don't know. If they stick with it. If they change as little as possible and they just spruce it up, maybe modernize the controls a little bit, maybe they'll have something pretty solid. I'm just a little bit more skeptical of it, just because it's a Kojima game. It's a big deal. No offense to Silent Hill 2, kind of a way bigger deal.
Yeah, no doubt.
So we'll see. I don't know. It looks great. Like visually, I think it looks pretty nice, but that doesn't really say anything.
Colin, this is a good point to bring this up. I saw this popped up while we were recording. You talk about Konami coming back, just announced Felix the Cat and Rocket Knight Adventures through Limited Run, coming to PS4 and PS5. I just put a link to the tweet that's just dropped a little bit ago. So
wow, cool. Yeah, Felix the Cat was a late NES game. And Rocket Knight, wow. Yeah, Rocket Knight was on PS3, right?
I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember Rocket Knight.
Dude, Rocket Knight rules from Sega Genesis, dude.
That's what I never had a Genesis. What am I thinking of?
They might have re-released one for PS3, but yeah, I mean, this is to my understanding, just in looking briefly. Let's see, the press release here.
I'm sorry, Rocket Knight is a 2.5D platforming video game developed by Climax and published by Konami for Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. The game was released worldwide in 2010. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Rocket Knight is a revival of the Sparkster series, which began with Rocket Knight Adventures. So so it looks like so that's cool. So these are the old. I didn't even know it was based on anything, to be perfectly honest. But I wasn't a Genesis guy.
Yeah, the original's on the Genesis.
Yeah, so this is great. But limited run games, don't know if I'm gonna be able to support them. I think I'm gonna be able to resist, personally. I've lost you guys because I pulled this up. Oh, there you are. Okay, I couldn't see you anymore.
Oh, the pixel
I knew
art
you were there.
Lost.
The pixel art looks really nice, actually.
Dude, yeah, Rocket Knight is a sweet Genesis game, and these are collections too. That Rocket Knight Adventure, Sparkster, RKA2, Sparkster. I don't know about those, but the original is a really cool Genesis game.
Every time I see Felix the Cat, though, I think of his horrifying Thanksgiving Day parade float or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I don't know about this one.
I know. Did we bring that up on a?
Yeah,
on
we
a
did.
show
We
at some
talked
point?
about Thanksgiving Day. Talking about Felix the Cat.
Yeah, because it had like a very horrifying Thanksgiving Day parade in like the 1930s or something.
Imagine that thing coming down the street.
Oh my god.
Well, this will be interesting. I mean, I'm happy for Konami. Konami, in the future, if you want to re-release these awesome games as you guys have been doing, consider working with a company that doesn't fucking suck. And you'll probably get more. I'm reading some of the comments. I mean, I'm sure they're going to do fine, but a lot of people are not pleased with them working with a limited run, and they shouldn't be, because those guys are clowns. Okay. Back to CES news. So 2 things were shown kind of randomly. It's really unclear what we're being shown in one of them. So I'll leave it to Video Games Chronicle to kind of describe a little bit. Gravity Rush. So Gravity Rush, or Gravity Days as it's known in Japan, was a Vita game that was then released on PS4, and then it got a sequel on PS4 and so on, Gravity Rush 2. And it's a well-received and well-liked niche PlayStation product from a late Studio Japan. And we know that they were working from a couple of years ago, actually, when we talked about it on the show, that they're working on some sort of film adaptation they showed some of the film adaptation in a sizzle reel at CES, and it doesn't look great, but it like, first of all, just the look of Kat is like, it doesn't seem like she has the red eyes and all that. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I don't know. I'm not that impressed. I don't know what they're trying to do with that. The other thing they showed, which was more mysterious and a little more strange, was Patapon, which was an old PSP-centric IP that was well-liked. And they showed footage of a Patapon project labeled, according to Video Games Chronicle, IP Development Gaming /Anime. It's unclear if we're seeing a game or some sort of cartoon product here. Probably a game. Patapon's a little bit of a strange thing to return to. Obviously came out early in PSP's life cycle and had a few sequels. And we are getting, remember, they are doing that Patapon successor, Ratatan, we talked about a few months ago. That was kickstarted to like the tune of a ton of money. So people are excited about its return. Maybe this has something to do with it. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about either of these things, but I did want to bring them up that they did happen. A little bit of a glimpse of the Gravity Rush movie, a little bit of a glimpse of a mysterious Patapon, potentially game product. Anything to say about this, Dustin?
The Gravity Rush footage is definitely weird looking. I'll chalk it up to being like early stuff, because they brought it up right because they were talking about technology. And they were saying like, oh, look at this tech that we're able to do all this kind of cool stuff with. Gravity Rush is such an interesting choice. I don't know. All of their other choices have to do with the synergy of what they can do with, games. And with both Gravity Rush and Patapon, particularly Gravity Rush, this is a dead IP where they tried to bring it back with Gravity Rush 2 and it kind of didn't do much at all. And so I wonder if this means that they're thinking about doing more Gravity Rush stuff. Maybe they'll see how this movie or whatever does. The Patapon stuff, that one little clip of it looks really cool. I played a little bit of the original Patapon, but I like the idea of making it different and doing this cool 3D version of it. But it'll be, it's going to be conflicting with the reboot at the same time, where it's a reoccurring thing where a reboot, a spiritual successor happens, it gets a lot of press, it's exciting, and then the company that owns the original IP is like, oh shit, I guess we should do something with this. I mean, this is what's happening with Suikoden and Konami, and so I'm curious, are the Patapon fans out there? Clearly, that Kickstarter did well, so I imagine this will do well also.
Yeah, I just can't, I don't know, man. I can't believe that maybe we're getting a little bit of a glimpse of Sony that is not tied to the things you were saying. That, like, the synergies and the necessity of getting tons of money and all that. Maybe they see value, or maybe they're seeing emerging value in exploring smaller things again, or at least more silently, more quietly, more affordably. The thing about the Gravity Rush movie, I'll kick it over to you, Chris, is I don't think the look is right at all. I don't know why you wouldn't do an anime. The game itself is beautiful. I mean, it's a Vita game, but when it was ported to PS4, they upres it obviously a great deal, and it's a pretty game. I mean, it's a stylish game, and you could do something like that again. In watching Castlevania on Netflix, which we've been doing, we're now in the 3rd season. This is so beautiful. Like, you could just make a game that really looked a lot like this in some sense, and
yeah.
I just don't know what they're doing there, but PlayStation Productions has been pretty good. So I want to give I think they have earned the benefit of the doubt at this point, between Uncharted, which I thought was good, The Last of Us, which is excellent, and Gran Turismo, which I thought was good. So
Twisted Metal.
And Twisted Metal, which is, right, Twisted Metal, of course, which is good. So I'm like, okay, I mean, cook away and see what happens. I don't mind. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And then as far as the Patapon stuff, we'll have to just see more. But do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of experience with Gravity Rush or Patapon, so like, I mean, I know Patapon from back in the day. I played very, very little of it. But as Gravity Rush, it just strikes me as a strange choice. But I like you said, I mean, they clearly have some idea of what works and what doesn't. So like, I do think maybe they've earned the benefit of the doubt in that sense. But it's still like there's something deep in me that's like, that's a weird choice for a movie. I don't know. I don't see it really, but maybe they're right. They've been right before.
They got to give Kat red eyes. Doesn't she have red eyes?
I think so. I don't remember.
I got to look this up now. 'Cause, like that was what stuck out to me, right? Although, like you said, it's not done. Yeah, she is. Yeah, she has red eyes. I mean, that's what I remember about her. Yeah. Okay. So let's get that fixed.
Whatever they showed was like really, really fucking early. So I'm not really worried that like what we saw is indicative. It's more just like Gravity Rush to me seems like more of it just seems like more of an interesting thing to play than it would be to see. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It's I don't know, because there's a sensation about switching where the floor is when you're, or like how you're falling in a gameplay environment where you can actually directly impact that. That's like really interesting. Whereas like in the linear piece of media that's just like you're watching it, that just kind of feels like flying. I'm sure there's, I don't know, maybe they have some really, really interesting storyboards and like some really great artists on it. Like, I don't know. We'll see.
Let's talk about WB. Good and bad. We'll start with good. Hogwarts Legacy, according to Variety, the Hollywood publication, crossed 22 million copies sold by the end of 2023. Totally amazing.
Crazy
stat. It's the best-selling game in the world, I think, in the core space, in the console and PC space, and one of the only years that it would have passed Call of Duty. And certainly that's true here in the United States. 2 million copies sold alone in December, bringing it from 20 to 22 million copies. And just an amazing success story. I was thinking about this. We've really beaten to death, I think, the J.K. Rowling connection, which is its own thing, and the completely failed, demonstrably failed want to kind of avoid and injure this game by not covering it and all that. Just it really, really, really showed how media, like as we traditionally understand it, controls very little in the space anymore, because it didn't matter. The bitching and whining didn't matter, the obfuscation didn't matter, not covering it didn't matter, none of it mattered. And they're obviously going to be bringing more games. They say in the article on Variety, they're talking to people at WB, that obviously they're bringing their Quidditch game out, but they're going to be making more of this style game too. And just want to congratulate them and also acknowledge that, but it really does go to show you, and I was curious what you think of this, Dustin, like, so removing the JK stuff as much as you can from it, Harry Potter is highly relevant. I mean, that's what I read into this. Now, maybe this is intrinsically known by some people, but I never really got the vibe that Harry Potter was at this level of relevance. And now we have the HBO kind of show coming out in the coming years that's going to reboot kind of the movie style thing and do the books again, and I think that that's really exciting and interesting. But I wonder if this IP is secretly like so powerful and resonating throughout the generations, because it is in fact very, very good, and even though people wanted to attack it, it didn't seem to really matter. It just fed it. It's very fascinating to me. Did you read it the same way, that Harry Potter was kind of in decline in some way? Because this doesn't indicate that at all to me.
You could definitely get a sense of a feeling of decline with the recent spin-off movies being nowhere near as liked as the original series. And of course, there's been the other new thing, I guess, in the actual Harry Potter, well, I guess the movies, the spin-offs are part of the lore, but she did the play as well, which was conflicting, that she co-wrote with somebody that plays with the lore in a lot of weird ways. So I think there's some of that, but at the same time, it's a story and an IP that has resonated with so many people that now are grown up and reading it to their kids, and kids are getting into it. And think about too, just that there are multiple Harry Potter Wizarding World theme parks that are really successful. The one that I was at in Japan was bumping when I was there. Japanese people love Harry Potter. There's like Harry Potter cafes and stuff there too. So wow. It, I guess in a way, can feel dormant with some of the more public facing things maybe not doing as hot, but The fan base is hardcore, and they are, creating more little Harry Potter fans. And so I don't think it really matters. I think there's probably some people that maybe don't like what J.K. Rowling has said, but aren't going to quit their fandom because of it as well. And I think a lot of people just don't know. And if they do know, they don't care. So I would imagine those HBO shows are going to do super well. And I mean, that's why they're doing them, is that there's something in the air now where Harry Potter has kind of entered a nostalgic period for a lot. I mean, myself included. I talked about many times playing Hogwarts Legacy how nostalgic of a game it was for me. And so I'm pumped for more stuff. I'm really curious how they'll redo it. Obviously, there's a protective aspect of someone who really likes that original line of movies, but after rewatching them last year, I thought, yeah, there's definitely some things they could do better. And so maybe with HBO, who does awesome high quality stuff, maybe this is just the beginning of Harry Potter, and it will get even bigger from here. You think about something like Pokemon that was huge in the 90s, and now somehow it's just continued to get bigger as the new generation is brought up on it.
Yeah, I'm amped to see the HBO show just to see how they do it. I have no real affinity for Harry Potter, but I think it's cool. But it'll be interesting to see how they execute on that when they do. Chris, do you want to become a wizard?
I don't know, man. Like I grew up with Harry Potter, so like there's certain, but I only grew up with it up to a certain point. Like I watched the first 3 movies. I really loved the first 2. I liked the third one, and then I just never saw another one. I think years had passed by, and then the part 2 of the last movie was out, and then a friend of mine was like, you want to watch it at my place? We have a bunch of people coming over to eat snacks and watch it. I was like, sure. So I saw the first 3 movies and then the last part of the last one. So I have a lot of missing context for a lot of things. But I loved it when I was a kid. I loved that the Chamber of Secrets video game for Xbox and PS2. I thought was fucking great. Even there was a game, I think there was a Game Boy or Game Boy Advance game, The Sorcerer's Stone, that I really, really liked. Like the soundtrack's great. I think the vibe is really cool. Like I like it. And I think it's why I enjoyed Hogwarts Legacy so much in the beginning, but then eventually kind of fell off because I didn't stick with it the whole time. So there wasn't like, I'm sure there was a lot of stuff that was like pulling from like later movies or later lore, or like some deeper things that I just wasn't aware of, and I just kind of like, I get it. It's cool. It's cute. But it's interesting to me how it's exploded again, because I was like you, Colin, where I just kind of, I don't know, like those Fantastic Beasts movies I heard weren't amazing. That play really didn't make waves at all. So I did kind of assume that it was just kind of like this dying star or like this fading light, and then here this game comes out and just wipes the floor with so much else this year, in a really strong year, by the way. Granted, they came early, but I don't know, man. It's nuts.
Yeah, I'm also, this is just the petty Colin coming out, but the HBO series makes me especially pleased because I felt like a lot of the actors and actresses that made their bones on Harry Potter and were made famous by those movies really have shown a substantial amount of disrespect for J.K. Rowling over time to varying degrees, and it's interesting to think that they may be eroded away as like the face. Like you can imagine an HBO Harry Potter being even bigger and that becoming the seminal Harry Potter, and like people don't even think about like the other guy anymore. Could go the other direction, but I doubt it. I really do. I really doubt it. Because
I think, yeah, maybe. I also feel like maybe they would be happy with that, because I bet it would be pretty annoying to go through your entire life being like, it's Harry Potter. Harry Potter. It's like, well, I mean, okay. Like, great. This is me for the rest of my life now. I'm Harry Potter. I used to get called that too, and I changed my entire look in school because of this movie too. So I have like a conflicted relationship with it.
Yeah,
I have a conflicting relationship with it. Yeah, I used to have longer, kind of scraggly. Like when I was a kid, I had longer, kind of scraggly looking Daniel Radcliffe hair, and I had circle glasses. And I had this like, I don't know, you can't really see it on camera, but I do have a scar on my forehead. It's like a circle. So like it was a mess. It was a mess for me for a good year, and I was like,
And I wore a yellow and red scarf.
and my parents were murdered by a demon.
And I lived in the storage closet.
Yeah, no, but like it was annoying, and then I remember being like, I'm getting a buzz cut, I'm getting square glasses. I'm sick of this.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Actually.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we had the positive side of the WB coin. Let's go to the negative side of the WB coin. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. I wrote here in our notes, appears DOA. I don't know if that's really overstated or not, but the previews that are coming out from people that have gone hands-on are not positive at all. However, Trevor Cannon wrote in and said, hey, homies, I was just curious about what the hell the deal is with everyone shitting on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Sure, is the game turning out to be what we all wanted? Hell no. But I truly can't understand why outlets like IGN are making it their mission to dump on the game. They just released an article titled, We Played It and We Didn't Like It. Besides clicks, why label that article that way? This game will come out and sell great. Mark it down. Based on the IP alone, the Metacritic score will land between 75 and 85, and most fans will play it for a week or two and move on with their lives. Also remember, we as hardcore gamers live in a vacuum. Most consumers won't be listening to any of this nonsense and will be there day one to purchase this with their buddies. Anyway, thanks, fellas, and have a lovely day. I think some of what you're saying is no doubt true, that it's going to sell probably pretty well, at least initially, and people will buy it. No doubt. I mean, Gotham Knights did extraordinarily well, too, and people didn't particularly like that game critically.
Yep.
75 to 85 is a huge... You would never be able to do a mock review and give the publisher that level of breadth. You'd have to really pick a score, and I don't think there's any prayer of this game getting an 85. I would be... First of all, I would love that to be true because I fucking chose this game as a kind of a random pick in the fantasy draft, being like, it can't be that bad. It's Rocksteady, right? I mean, certainly like underneath the hood when we get our hands on it. But dude, when I saw this game... like the actual gameplay and I read a little bit about it. I'm like, oh, see, here's my take on this, and I'll be interested to see what you guys think of it. It looks totally good, but what is this? This is what you guys decided to do? Why did you do this? Arkham Knight came out in 2015. You spent all this time making that? This generic? There's a million games like this at this point. This just has a DC kind of skin over it. So it's not that the game doesn't look fun, because I think it does. I'm not going to play it, but it just looks so trite. It's like, I can't believe this. No wonder Sefton Hill left the fucking studio and wanted to go do something else. Like, this is what I don't know, man. I mean, that's the biggest surprise, especially when WB on the other side of the coin has this great example of doing a single player, just a true game, a single player game, and it's selling 22 million copies. And then they see this thing and they're like, we probably could have had Rocksteady do like 2 of these for another IP, for Batman or something else, and sold 10 million copies or 15 million copies each and been in great shape. I am skeptical of the game's performance, but I don't think it looks very good. Chris, what are your thoughts?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I've been looking at this for a while, and it bothers me because it reminds me a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Where the Guardians of the Galaxy game, I remember looking into like the previews of it and looking at gameplay of it and looking at trailers for it and hearing the cutscenes and dialogue and thinking, this looks pretty not good. And then I played it, and it was probably one of my favorite games that year. So it was a surprise because it was more fun to play than it was to watch. And I hope to God that's the case for this. You know, it might be possible. It doesn't look like a game that I wouldn't like necessarily. Like, it looks like it's kind of borrowing a little bit of Sunset Overdrive stuff. It looks like it plays something like that, but I can't help but feel like that's fine from a gameplay perspective, but like, why is this Suicide Squad? Like, why is Harley Quinn swinging like Spider-Man? Why is the shark swimming through the air? Like, it just feels like really not cohesive, I guess, is because like Batman, everything that you played in the Batman Arkham games like felt like, oh, I know it's like a joke in the game space, but like, you know, made you feel like Batman. Spider-Man makes you feel like Spider-Man. Like there's coherent design decisions that adhere to like what the character is and what they're doing. But like this one, it's like, oh, Harley Quinn swinging 50 miles above the city, and it's like, why? It won't matter, I guess, from a gameplay perspective. If the baseline gameplay is fun and energetic, and there's really no way to feel that without actually playing it. I've been a big proponent of that for the longest time. You really can't it's really difficult to judge a game and how it will feel to play versus just by looking at it. But like, I'm not feeling pretty strong for this, man. Like, I'm feeling maybe like low 70s.
Yeah, that seems right.
I feel it just feels, and it's not even necessarily because the game itself. I bet they could have stripped a lot out of this game and made a better game, because I don't know if you guys saw the, and I know, yeah, we're gonna talk about it in a second, but like, I couldn't fucking believe the HUD when I saw it.
Oh my god. Isaac Woolsey wrote in and said, "Hi crew, game UI has been brought up again because of Kill the Justice League. What are y'all's thoughts on modern game UI?" I think modern game UI is decent enough. This game, they made the meme, Chris. They literally made the meme in real life.
It is actually worse. It is actually, I can't believe it. It is worse than that Photoshop of Elden Ring with like all the fake Ubisoft stuff sprinkled throughout it. It's giving you so much information. It looks like fucking World of Warcraft. It's so absurd, the amount of information on screen on your HUD at any given moment, the design differences between like the bottom right corner and the bottom left corner, and the way the messages show up, and the way that the objectives show up, and the way that your medals show up, and where your health is, and where your it's like they were stolen from different games and thrown onto, like, they're not even equivalent in like design. Like, there's no cohesion between any of these elements at all. And like the color of it is all fucked. It's like every single color under the sun on the HUD. And I really,
it's fucking brutal. It really is.
I was floored by it. And look, maybe it is very possible that maybe it's not that big of a deal when you're playing, because it was not brought up in the IGN article that was like very critical of it. You know, as far as I remember, like reading through it and skimming through the video, like they didn't mention the UI once, which indicates that even though it is pretty bad, it's the least of the game's problems, which is also scary. So, yeah, it's. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing anymore. Like, you don't need to splash every bit of information on screen at once to have a compelling game. Like, I don't understand why we haven't learned from literally every other great game that doesn't do this. Even other live service games don't do this. Like, even Destiny is like far cleaner than this.
It looks like a 4X game almost. Like, it looks insane. Like just incredible amount of data on the screen. You know what it reminds me of a little bit, Dustin, is, and it's not comparative because it's both has to do with UI, but just rather like holding on to things that aren't necessary. It's like that generation of games, like around the turn of into the 90s and into the 90s, where games started getting rid of scores, and people were keeping them around. Like Mega Man 1's a really good example where the game has a score, and it's like, why? No, you don't need, you don't need this level of information. You don't need this data here at all. It reminds me a little bit of holding on to that, where it's like, well, look at all the information. And it's like, but well, do we really need this level? I couldn't believe the screenshots I was seeing, or I was like, this is real?
Yeah.
It is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't want to beat up on the game too badly because we haven't played it, but I just couldn't believe it from that perspective.
Well, when you posted the screenshot in our staff Discord, I thought, holy shit, that's fake.
I called it an affront to God.
Yeah, I thought that's fake. And then I went and saw the IGN preview, and there's other previews too, but I was like, holy shit, it's real. And so here's what I'm thinking right now. I'm curious what you guys think. I want to talk to the last write-in, Trevor. I want to sit Trevor down. Have a little talk. I want to talk to you. Do you think that IGN sits down in a dark room, maybe there's some candles lit, and they say, it's gonna be our mission to take down Suicide Squad? You know, I can't stand this line of it's like such a, what do you want? Do you want the press to be honest with you, or do you only want them to be honest about what they think when it's something you agree with or want to be true? I just think it's odd that people, I mean, particularly I know Dustin has gotten a lot of heat. It's one thing if you're looking at it and you don't think that what he's saying lines up, okay. But to create some kind of conspiracy that's like, oh, they're really trying to take down this game. It's like, no. He played the game, and he's telling you what he thinks about it.
Yeah, and Dustin is like Chris, where he's like a real gameplay hawk. Like, I trust him on these matters quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So the weird need to defend a game that you haven't played yet by making up things like that is weird. Don't be weird. If you're excited and you don't care if it's going to be a 75 or an 85 and you and your boys are going to play it, I hope you have the best time ever. Legitimately, I hope that Suicide Squad comes out. It's the game of the year. I hope every game comes out that people worked really hard on, people spend their hard-earned money on, get a great experience. But don't try to cast something as illegitimate because someone has some kind of an agenda. Sure, those things can happen. That's not the case in this one. So, yeah, as far as my thoughts on the game, it doesn't... The UI and all of the different systems, this comes back to what we were talking about with Back 4 Blood and how you can have a really great core set of gameplay and systems and movement and even missions, stuff like that. And you can kill it by putting too many layers on top, and that's the impression that I get from it. There's too many meta layers.
Over designed, man. It's a death knell for certain games. And it's God, man.
What did they do to it when they delayed it, do you think?
Yeah, that's my because they had a year to polish it, right? Basically.
Yeah, we thought that they were gonna like put a bullet in some of these things' heads, but it seems we also acknowledge that it's really hard to undo this at this point. You know.
Right. Like
it is what it is.
Look, they're making a live service inspired. I know it's not technically a live service, but like whatever. Like they're making something that speaks to that audience. That was never going to be undone. But at the very least, look, man, I don't know, man. This UI does not look like a year of polish. You know what I mean? This looks like a fucking disaster. At least from a visual perspective. Like, it might be fun. I have no idea. I really don't know.
Well, you hit on it, is that it just doesn't really make any sense. Like, even from what I know about DC and these villains and all that, it's like, what is this? This person has a gun and like, I don't know. You know what this seems like to me,
Captain
Chris?
Boomerang has SMGs.
Right. It's like okay, cool. It really reminds me of if you were gonna write, and I know that I've never seen it, but there are shows like I don't know if Silicon Valley is one of them or whatever, but there are like shows like that are dramas or comedies that kind of lampoon real situations in the industry or whatever and make fun of them. You would imagine a show that would make a game like this.
Right.
Like.
Yeah,
that's kind of like what it reminds me of, like where it's like it's the exact example of what we don't want, or what we say and as a people we don't want. Really, this trite game that somehow sucked this amazing studio into its black hole. It's totally BioWare times 10 in some sense because they took so much fucking time on this game.
Yeah,
I don't understand. I do wonder. There are so many multiple ways this can go. Rocksteady has a lot of value, and they have a lot of talent. I don't know how much of that talent's still there that wants to make games like Batman Arkham Knight. I don't know why you would stay if you make games like that. They're making like The Division now, which is totally fine. But in my mind, I just I wonder what their future is. If this, again, looking at Gotham Knight's performance, that indicates to me that there is a disconnect between critical reception and the commercial realities of these games. I do think that Trevor has a point that the game's going to sell well, but I wouldn't focus just on that because I'm pretty sure Anthem sold pretty appreciably too. And it doesn't always work out, and they wasted the studio's time. This game should have been put it's very difficult to do, and maybe it would have been impossible. You should have to cancel the whole thing, but someone at some point should have said, like, we need to disassemble everything in this game from this model and figure out, make a game. We have all these assets. It's kind of what they did with Uncharted 4, not in the same style, but saying, like, we have everything kind of built. What can we do with it? And I'll be intrigued to see what happens.
I want to believe that there's a Guardians of the Galaxy type hidden quality here. Like I want to believe that, but I don't. I'll wait to see like what people have to say about it once it's out. If it's much ado about nothing, and it turns out to be great, and it's a great story, then you know what? I'll check it out. It looks, because the gameplay does, like, I don't think the gameplay looks bad necessarily. Like the actual moment to moment like combat or whatever. It's really just the structure of the game and like how it's sorted and like the lack of cohesion between like what the gameplay is and like who you're, like what you are in the game. It just seems completely antithetical to itself. But if that ends up not being a problem, then great. Then everybody wins. Then I'm happy. Then that's great. Then Rocksteady didn't waste their time. You know, that's the outcome we're all hoping for. I don't want anybody to be under the impression that we're shitting on it because it's popular to shit on it. Like, no doubt that's true. It is popular to make fun of this game, but like it also just looks like a mess. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, it's totally unappealing to me. I mean, after watching the gameplay, I'm like, I'm not touching this game. But I do hope it does well. It seems like it could go down one of these many different Marvel-esque roads where it becomes something like the Avengers, or it does become some sort of critical darling, or like Guardians of the Galaxy or something. I'm sad for them because it just doesn't seem like a judicious use of time, but we will find out. And you made a good point too, Dustin, where, and again, as someone that comes from traditional media, you really can't win with previews because there are different philosophies behind them. There used to be this philosophy that was much more prevalent back in my era of games media that I didn't really agree with, but it was kind of the way you previewed games with what you might call the benefit of the doubt mantra, where you're seeing an incomplete game and you're seeing a vertical slice of it out of context and you just don't know. But that neutrality often gets turned on you, and so over time I came to realize that you can't really judge games like that. You have to kind of judge it viscerally in some way, and that is the more what I would call the honest approach, or the forthwith approach, especially with a game like Suicide Squad, where the game is clearly about to go gold. So you're getting the product as it is. I mean, you're getting it. This isn't some early, you're playing it. And I agree with your sentiment that people seem so mad no matter what. Either it's too neutral or it comes off as dishonest. You go back to a preview and say, why did you tell me this game sucked then? But then if you warn them, I experienced this with The Order 1886, as I've said many times. When I saw it at Gamescom and I wrote and I was like, you better watch out for this game. This game is going to be fucked. And people were so mad about it. Lo and behold. You know? So I trust people like Dustin Legary too. And we'll see how the critics take to it when it comes out next month. Spencer Price wrote in and said, hey CDC, with the recent negative previews of Rocksteady's latest iteration of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, I can't help but hope that it's not too late for Sony to change course on their live service initiative. Seeing what befell my beloved BioWare being one of the best narrative single-player studios crumble to pieces in pursuit of games as a service with Anthem, is it wrong for me to think that similar efforts by Sony will be received just as poorly as these titles by the aforementioned studios? I know you have said it makes sense for Sony to be in this space because if the game succeeds, it'll be worth the investment, but if they don't play their cards right or frankly get lucky, will their reputation not just be tarnished as these once prominent developers? I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts. I think we have to separate two things here, in my opinion. The games need to be developed. It's about who's making them, for how much, and in what context. And there's no doubt that Rocksteady shouldn't have spent 9 years on a live service-esque Suicide Squad game. It doesn't mean that that game shouldn't exist. It doesn't mean that game couldn't have been made by a different studio for a much cheaper price and maybe a different philosophy behind it that would design it a little bit differently, whatever the case might be. But I think these are separate things. Sony doesn't need to have Sucker Punch or Santa Monica or Naughty Dog, even as we realize, make those games, but they have to have someone make them. And they are doing that. Concord doesn't come from a studio that makes single-player games. Fair Games doesn't come from a studio that makes single-player games. And so on and so forth. So I don't see the conflict here. I continue to say that we have to accept and even, we don't want to root on a bad game, but root on the idea that being in this space is additive, but that it needs to be done in a very deliberate manner. And maybe through that lens, you can see why they relinquished Naughty Dog's role from The Last of Us Online, although from my perspective, that could have been done wildly differently. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts you want to share on that, but I did want to just say that this guttural instinct that live service is always going to be bad, especially with the broad definition of that term, which includes games like Helldivers and MLB The Show and whatever. I just don't know how you can think that they don't want to be there or shouldn't be there. I think that that's like nailing your own coffin shut in some way, because these games are going to exist and it's important to be there, and Sony knows that they need to be there. So that's all I wanted to say on that. All right. some bad news as we wrap these smaller news items up. Twitch laid off 35% of its workforce, 500 people. Unity laid off 25% of its workforce, or 1,800 people. Ruben Barrett wrote in and said, "Hey CCD, the past few months of news and listening to this podcast and the Dukes has got me thinking, what's the actual point of working in the video game industry as a developer? You bust your R's, work long hours, and even when you succeed at work, for example, Insomniac making the most successful game in PlayStation's history, the higher-ups are still looking for ways to furlough you and your colleagues. Just seems like such a rough environment with basically zero respect for the creatives and the actual people who make the games, i.e. Bungie firing loads of figureheads, Jaffe not even getting credit for creating Sony IP, etc. We all love games, but damn, go be a software dev with higher pay and job security." I don't disagree, rather, although I think AI is going to make much trouble for engineering in the coming years too. What do you guys think of this? Dustin, I'll go to you first. I'm curious. These layoffs are sad, no doubt. All layoffs are sad. The timing sucks because you know that they held off until after the holidays to let people know, and that this stuff was already known at the time, which you can kind of appreciate. However, it's important to note that these companies do need to right size. They can't just exist and employ people in which no one makes any money. An important point about Twitch is that it makes no money. Like, it's not a profitable enterprise. And it never has been. And you kind of have to judge a workforce in roster number by its output. And Twitch simply cannot sustain a staff that big, and I think you would argue didn't really ever need a staff that big. And Unity, the writing was on the wall for Unity. I mean, that was why it kind of puts into perspective why it was so urgent, and maybe that people jumped down John Riccatello's throat a little too quickly about the urgency to raise revenue. So they abandoned that and did some other things, and so this is the penalty, unfortunately. Is it because of bad decisions at the top? I think almost always in some cases it's because of bad decisions at the top, but that's what capitalism is like a series of bets. And it sucks that it trickles down to the individuals. But I also think it's important that we keep in mind, just for honesty, that a lot of these companies, and we saw, I think Twitter is a really great example of this, and I said this over and over again, is like a company that simply didn't need to employ that many people. And you could look at companies like this and say like, well, now they're getting to the size that they really should be, and it would be unrealistic for them to sustain these people that they simply couldn't employ anymore. So it's a bummer that this happened, but I feel like people always put it in the same bucket without thinking why these things happen. And it's like, if you want Twitch to be bigger, you better start spending a lot more money there. If you want them to hire people at Unity, you better start subscribing, because that's the reality of it behind the scenes, and that's all that matters. And so I don't want to come off as cold, but it's like we talk about some of these things without real context. Dustin, go ahead.
Yeah, well, in addition to this too, another thing that I saw while we were recording is that Discord is also laying off 17% of their staff, 170 people.
Oh, this broke today?
Yeah, it broke while we were recording, so that's it's a trio of layoffs.
It's too bad. Yeah, it sucks, but everyone's right sizing. I think that the free money is not flowing anymore.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, is that you have, like, right now, like, inflation is insane. And the question that I have, and I legitimately don't know the answer to this, is this a video game industry problem, or is this just a big business problem right now, where there was a lot of unprecedented growth in 2019, the economy was booming, COVID happens, it was tough. Some people survive, some people don't. And then, not from the virus, I mean the companies.
That fucking rules. That rules.
So yeah, some companies had a hard time during COVID and came back strong. And then there's also an element too that I think about a company like Discord that had such growth momentum, and they want to be staffed up in the case that they don't want to be growing and not be able to do and meet demand of the things that they need to do, and maybe they grow in ways that they don't expect. And so yeah, it's an unfortunate side of that if you don't grow, or you don't grow in the way you think, that some of the, you gotta downsize. And I think inflation also, yeah, like I said, is a big part of that too. But I don't know if it's the case that this is my gut tells me this isn't a uniquely video game industry problem right now. I will say in the case of Unity, we talked about this being bad leadership. Yeah, with that Unity story last year that you guys talked about, I think I was in Japan when that really broke and went down, but that was an instance of where they looked at the numbers, needed to raise revenue, and just did it in the absolute dumbest way possible. And now people are paying the price for it. People that don't deserve, the people that didn't make that decision. So it sucks. It definitely sucks. Again, it's trying to explain these things isn't trying to make light of it, but we're analyzing the situation. And so we can draw some conclusions, or at least look in the right direction on why.
Yeah, I just think I know this from even, and I've said it so many times when I walk around IGN. It's like, what does everyone do here? We have a gaming website. Like, why do we have hundreds of people here? I didn't at some point didn't make any sense, and I started to realize that in tech, and this is probably true in a lot of places, there's just so much bloat, and unfortunately, that bloat gets comfortable and then when the situation, like you said, Dustin, turns on its head and you can no longer justify the bloat, the normal people suffer and it sucks. So yeah, from a personal standpoint, it's an awful thing. From a corporate standpoint, I feel like the right sizing sadly has just begun. And I don't even think it's efficiencies and stuff, Chris. I don't think it's even AI and all these other things that are going to start displacing people. I really just think that there are just a lot of people that don't serve the function of making money, and when things get urgent, the companies just look towards those people exclusively. And it certainly starts at the top. The buck has to stop somewhere. So,
bloat is a choice in the first place,
right?
That's kind of the thing that bothers me about it. It's like they're right sizing, sure, because they hire too many people. It's like, whose decision was that in the first place? Like we've had consistently great months, month to month here, right? At LSM, I know we've had it over at the Snark Tank. Every single month is our best month ever. You know, did we go hire 20 people because of that? No.
Right.
It's ultimately like and granted, I know this is very different situations, very different scales, but like ultimately, like having that bloat is a choice in the first place, and that is a choice made by upper management and or like upper people who are higher up. And so when that bloat is eventually cut, and it affects the people that had no, like they were told that they needed. They were told that this company needed people, and then they went and came, and then they were like, we were just kidding, basically. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
And it's annoying. It's because we're not even close to the end of this, man. Like I know for a fact, like there's a lot of layoffs coming soon. It's not slowing down. It's coming. So it's gonna be a continuation of all the shit that happened last year, where people are just like right sizing and get rid of departments that are deemed maybe not as essential. Things like QA, which is hilarious. But like, God bless you.
Yeah, it's so complicated, and it victimizes people. It's also multifaceted from a business perspective, because especially with Twitch, which I think I would observe most closely, is like, I could be wrong about this. I don't know if you have any insight into this, either of you, but Twitch seems to be in demonstrable decline. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but when I look at numbers and people streaming, and I sometimes check in on people's streaming numbers between platforms, like YouTube seems to finally be getting where I think people assumed it was always going to be, because people have to remember, when Twitch was purchased by Amazon, they outbid Google. Google wanted Twitch, and Amazon came in and kind of differentiated it, and YouTube really failed for a long time to get something competitive in the streaming space going, and I feel like it feels like it's kind of turned around in some sense, where Twitch is clearly not what it once was. Is that an accurate representation of the situation, Dustin? Because that's certainly, I guess that's pretty obvious if they laid off 500 people, but
I honestly don't, Chris, I don't know if you know. I know YouTube, you're right, is definitely doing better. YouTube totally fucked itself when they introduced live streaming, and then people realized it was insanely hurting their channels in the algorithm and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, they started to recover, but I don't know about Twitch, like what their status is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do, Chris.
I don't really know much about Twitch, to be honest. It's my least engaged with platform, I think.
Yeah, it seems like, well, you were saying, like, if YouTube is growing in that space, and then they have Kick and these other competitors, too, it's like, well, that they're clearly coming from somewhere. It's not like they're just being materialized out of thin air. They must be coming from Twitch, so it is interesting to... Because I was on Twitch for a few years with Kind of Funny at a really robust time where we were confused. I remember going and visiting YouTube to talk to them, like YouTube Gaming, and we were confused why they weren't better. Like, why we were surprised on how important Twitch actually became to us, because we had assumed we'd be able to fold everything into this YouTube thing, but they did finally understand it. So from that perspective, it seems like Twitch is kind of in trouble, and I could be wrong, but I mean, I think the job loss is sadly indicate that pretty obviously. And then to answer Ruben's question, I guess that we brought up earlier, I just feel like there's so much dissonance in what you're saying. Not that you're saying it, but that the way people talk about games in some sense, where people complain about how much games cost. People complain about how much it costs to be on PlayStation Plus or whatever. All these things are fine. How much the unit costs, how much the console costs. Like, though these are capitalistic enterprises with people making good money, the money ultimately, the most expensive part of a company's balance sheet is its people. And the money you spend on these companies will dictate one way or the other whether they have the money to spend on that. And it's not like there's this idea that all ideas are bad, and that when a company fails, it comes through the failure of some bad idea. And that sometimes is true, but it's also just the reality that people are not paying for services. There's harsh competition on the markets, and different things eat away at each other. That's why I keep saying, and I don't know the numbers for sure, but there were so many layoffs last year in the games industry, but I do wonder if the games industry's net employment has grown or shrunk, because it's just in different places now. And so this is just a very complex economic situation that we find ourselves in, and unfortunately, so Twitch, Unity, and now Discord are just the beginning. And you know, I wish everyone the very best, but I don't know that you're going to find very much security elsewhere either. And in other words, Ruben, I don't think this is endemic to us in games. I think there's an enormous amount of disrespect paid to average workers in every industry, and that sucks. But I also don't want people to overestimate the vulture capitalism that I think people think's occurring all of the time. Sometimes the numbers just don't make sense, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a long-winded way of saying that. Like when people say like, oh, don't take your $5 million bonus at this company and don't lay these people off, and I'm like, I don't think you understand that $5 million is not sufficient to keep those people employed for more than like a little while longer, right? Or just as an example, it's not that simple. And when you're a public company, by the way, it's if you work for a publicly traded company and you have a problem with corporate profits, you are in the wrong place, because they have sold the soul of the company to the market, and now all they want to extract out of it is value. That's it. That's where the constant growth mantra comes from. So you have to know what you're getting yourself into when you put yourself in situations like that, where it's like people don't buy stock of a company to hold the stock. They buy stock to hold the stock and make dividends. That's the whole point. It doesn't make it right or wrong, but when you're in situations like that, man, it's going to get fucking bloody. For real. You know? And it sucks. That's why I really encourage everyone, if you have enterprises out there, keep them. Like, don't sell out if you can help it. Keep things small, family run, like In and Out. All right. Finally, just a quick note, Roblox got trophies. I was surprised that Roblox didn't have trophies. We noted this when it came out on PlayStation finally after years of not being on the console. And I assume that they got away with not having trophies because Sony wasn't going to bust their balls and they just wanted the shit on the console already. But now that it's there, there's a small list of trophies. They're apparently very easy to get if you want to get them. There is no platinum. It is a downloadable list, but just so everyone knows. Okay, let's get into the games we're playing. And I'll just start really quick. And I'm still playing Tales of Arise. I'm at almost 60 hours. I'm at the very end of the game, so I can go beat the boss now. But I'm trying the final boss. And there's post-game stuff to do as well, but I'm just trying to kind of clean things up, level my guys up, get all the equipment I need and whatever, and then I'm going to go do that. So that might even happen tonight or tomorrow. So I have nothing more to say about that, but we did talk about it more extensively on the JRPG Sacred Symbols Plus episode that will go live imminently from when this publishes on Patreon, so go check that out. So, Chris, I'll kick it over to you. It seems like you're playing a few things here as well.
Yeah, so I'm obviously playing GTA 4 still loving it. We went in depth on it on the most recent Summon Sign, so you can go watch that, and I'll get more in depth on it. Still love it. I platinumed Spyro 1.
Nice.
Which was nice, very relaxing, very easy, very kind of relaxing platinum. I was actually I was really enthralled by how zen that experience was. You know, it was very, very relaxed. I was like, ooh. Spyro 2 is the one that I'm working my way through right now. And I love Spyro 2. Spyro 2 is probably my favorite one. It's the one that I remember most from childhood and growing up with it and really, really enjoying it. And it's when they had more characters and more secondary gameplay quirks and power-ups and stuff. It was a lot more dynamic and a lot more interesting. There was some Metroidvania aspects of it too, where there were certain parts of levels that you couldn't get to without learning a skill that you would get later. And I thought it was really interesting. But it's so funny because this was my ideal Spyro game when I was a kid. But now as I'm going into it with a completionist mentality, I'm a little frustrated because in Spyro 1, I could get everything that I needed to get in a level and then just move on to the next one. But now it's there's always, I'm never 100% done with a level because there's these Metroidvania things that you have to get an ability to get to, and it's I'm moving on to new worlds before any of the individual levels are done. Yeah, and it's kind of driving me insane. But I'm still enjoying Spyro 2. It's a wonderful little platformer. I love the sound. I love the soundtrack specifically. It's so cheerful. I don't know. It's a nice environment to be in. But that's really all I've been playing. I haven't really been delving too deeply into anything serious.
Cool. Yeah, I platinumed Spyro 1 and 2 as well, but I never platinumed 3. I got somewhere in it and then I just put it down. I don't remember what happened. But continue to enjoy 5 platinums. Look at you. You're becoming such a big boy.
Look at me.
Dustin, do you want to speak on Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Yeah, I was thinking, I really haven't played a lot this past week. In fact, last 2 days, I didn't really get to play anything at all. But when I am playing, it's Final Fantasy VII Remake to get ready for Rebirth, which, man, it's coming up real fast this month. It's already January 11th time of recording, which is crazy. But yeah, it's the PS5 version is awesome. I'm being reminded, we talk about this a little bit in the JRPG Sacred Symbols Plus, but Final Fantasy VII Remake, as good as it is, I still think there are parts of it that feel a little filler-y, that are annoying. For example, there's the part I'm on right now it's still pretty early, but it's when you're under the plate and you're trying to get to another reactor. And you have to turn all the, get power and turn off all these switches and go around these different rafters and stuff. It's really annoying. Later on, there's these multiple sewer parts that are not very fun, in my opinion. But still really, really like the game. I'm excited to get to Intergrade, which I started when it came out and then never finished for some reason. So I'm going to go and do both of those. And I know Brad is playing too. Colin, you're going to be playing. So I would expect something about Final Fantasy VII Remake in the coming month or so.
Definitely.
As a remake revisited.
A lubricant for the second game, as it were, as we get into that. Plus, like we said, I never played Intergrade, so yeah, you get the Yuffie action in there and all the rest. All right, cool. All right, so a brief what we're playing section. Of course, Summon Sign dedicated to that each and every week. So go check that out if you so desire. Let's get into the news. Number 1. We don't often begin the hard news section of our show with TV news, but we will make an exception this week, as HBO's The Last of Us has officially cast 3 characters central to the events of The Last of Us Part 2, the 2020 PlayStation 4 game that will certainly be the predicate for the show's second season. Word comes by way of Hollywood publication Variety, which first reported that actress Caitlin Dever would be playing Abby. Dever is perhaps most famous for her decade-long role on the Tim Allen sitcom Last Man Standing, which ended in 2021. But she has a wide range of experience across film and TV, and perhaps most interestingly, also played Cassie Drake in Uncharted 4, which makes you wonder if she's somehow connected to what is widely assumed to be a new Uncharted game starring Cassie, under development somewhere, maybe somehow. Importantly, Dever is also co-starring in the upcoming Steve Gaynor game Open Roads, which is being released as a one-off, not under the Fulbright name. The other casting is more minor but still important, and it comes in the form of actor Young Mazzino, who will be playing Jesse. Mazzino is a less experienced actor than Dever, but has a growing filmography and is best known for his role on the 2023 Netflix series Beef. Finally, Dina has also been cast. She'll be played by actress Isabella Merced. Merced actually co-starred with Caitlin Dever in the Hulu film Rosalind in 2022, but she is perhaps best known for her starring role in the Nickelodeon show 100 Things to Do Before High School, and has a duo of nerdy films she's featured in currently in post-production, Madam Web and Alien Romulus. While The Last of Us won't return to HBO until 2025, at least partially stymied by recent work stoppages owing to the writers and subsequent actor strikes, the show's first season enters award season in a strong position. While it lost all 3 Golden Globes it was nominated for, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best TV Series, it cleaned up at the Creative Art Emmys, winning 8. Outstanding Picture Editing for a Drama Series, Outstanding Sound Editing for a Comedy or Drama Series, Outstanding Sound Mixing for a Comedy or Drama Series, Outstanding Main Title Design, Outstanding Special Visual Effects in a Season or Movie, and Outstanding Prosthetic Makeup, as well as Outstanding Guest Actor and Actress nods for Nick Offerman and Storm Reed. The rest of the personnel Emmys will be handed out soon, and The Last of Us enjoyed 24 total nominations. Okay, let's begin. Nicholas Brilhart wrote in and said, "Greetings, Sacred Boys. This week we got confirmation of the casting rumors from late last year that Caitlin Dever will be portraying Abby in The Last of Us Season 2 and onward. As someone who knows her from quite a bit more than just her role in Last Man Standing, Booksmart is an awesome movie. I really can't picture her in the role. It's not even necessarily that she isn't built like a UFC fighter, but more so that for so long, a lot of people pictured her as the perfect casting for Ellie if the show was made just a few years earlier. Should the team over at Max have gone in a different direction with casting to avoid this, or do you trust them to have made the right decision here?" So it is important to note that I think she was in consideration straight up for Ellie. I don't think that was even a rumor that she would have made sense. I think that they were considering her, and obviously they are familiar with her via Uncharted 4, and so we'll talk about that more in a moment. But what do we think about this? Let's go to you first, Dustin. So we'll begin with Caitlin Dever's inclusion here. What do you think of her as Abby? This is a seminal role, and I wonder if she knows what she's getting herself into. She must know what she's getting herself into with this role. It's going to require, unfortunately, because people are fucking stupid out there about this shit, and I'm not saying about your opinions of The Last of Us, I'm saying about the way you treat people. Some people treat other people, as we were talking about earlier in the show. She must know and have been forewarned that this is going to be an issue.
Right. Well, so first of all, I've not seen any of the things she's in, so I cannot speak at all.
Dude, Last Man Standing is funny. I think that show is actually really funny, personally.
I like Tim Allen,
yeah, me too.
What is it? Not Tool Time. Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit rules. Yeah. But, so, I think the main thing that people are bringing up is her physique when talking about her playing Abby, just because Abby's, like, her signature trait is how built she is. And so I wonder if she is planning on bulking up to do this role, which it's funny because we've seen Bella Ramsey, right? The actress that plays Ellie. There's been some photos of her bulking up for season 2. So maybe they're going in a slightly different direction with the character in a way, which I don't know. I'm curious what people think of that. A lot of people don't like Abby, so taking a new direction might... It's such weird territory because I think people will be very defensive about them changing it at the same time. But
yeah,
maybe they just don't... When they were doing the role, they thought we would rather have her and maybe change this aspect of the character than go with someone who we don't like as much that maybe fits the physique better. So I don't know. These other people too that were cast, I looked into them. I was like, I don't think I've seen anything that they're in. But the Uncharted connection is definitely really interesting in that there's some experience working with her, and I think that experience goes a long way. I mean, I think that's just in general. If people have experience with something, I mean, that's how we do things at Last Stand. The people that we know and trust, we like to work with because it's much safer than bringing on someone you don't know. So I'm really, really interested, and just interested too how they do season 2. We've talked lightly, without spoilers, about the possibility of them kind of switching up the order of things.
Yeah, it seems like that's not... it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
No.
Since you brought it up, and we'll get into it now, the Lazy Indian Gamer wrote in and said, "Hey, CDC, I can't help but wonder, the old detective wheels in my head are turning. Cassie Drake being cast as Abby in the HBO series, does this signal at all that there might be an Uncharted 5 brewing quietly in the background?" maybe I'm being way too optimistic, but I just feel like this shows that Naughty Dog has her performance firsthand in some capacity and has comfort level of working with her apart from the brief stint at the end of Uncharted 4. What do you guys think? Thanks to keep doing what you're doing. I think clearly the familiarity with Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann comes from Uncharted 4 and Cassie Drake. Now here, I'm going to add to the complexity of this iceberg. You ready? Is that Caitlin Dever in the ad with the torch? Like, I went and looked at a screenshot of it, and you can't really tell, and I'm not really very familiar with her where I'd be able to look at her, but I'm like, Now, you wouldn't obviously have live action components of an Uncharted game. You obviously also wouldn't mocap in that situation, but could it be her? I mean, is there like some sort of Easter egg in there in some way? That familiarity certainly was bred from Uncharted 4, and it makes you wonder if she is going to play Cassie in the next Uncharted. I thought the same thing. And I wonder, that would be fucking hysterical. And it seems like they like working with the same people, and I don't really blame them because there's so much money invested in this and the familiarity, and it's so conceptually different than I think the way most actors work, that I think you want to find the people that get it, and she probably gets it. So that's great. What do you think about the casting, Chris? Do any of these roles stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've seen Beef, so I know this. I know young Mazzino, I think is how you say it. Yeah,
he's the Asian guy playing Jesse.
Yeah, Beef is great. So that's cool. I don't know.
About the kitchen?
No. Beef
that's
is
the bear. That's the bear, I think.
Yeah, that's the bear. Beef is like this. I can't even explain. There's not enough time in this episode to explain it, but it's very good, and you should. I recommend everybody watch it. It's very fun. But yeah, I don't know. Like this, it seems like fine casting. I am in agreement though. Like when I saw this actress for Abby, I was like, that's Ellie. It's weird that it's weird that they went with Bella Ramsey, to be completely I still really don't understand that casting choice, other than the fact that it's like a really recognizable person from like a really big show.
Yeah,
like,
the inverse makes sense, right? Like, Bella Ramsey as Abby actually would have been somewhat interesting, you know.
Yeah, it would have been something. Like I just feel like, I don't know. One of the main disconnects between me and the Last of Us show, honestly, was Bella Ramsey as Ellie. I could never really see it. Although, like, I've also played the game, so like, who cares? I think a lot of people who didn't play the game, who watched the show, are just totally fine with that, and that's totally acceptable. I get it. But I feel like Pedro Pascal looks so like he fits that role so well. I think Definitely. In a lot of ways, and I don't know. It didn't work with me for me personally, but I think it's fine casting as long as it's written in a way that makes sense. Like, I don't really see a problem. Like, I can imagine them being like, oh well, she's supposed to be this or that, and I'm sure they probably will find a way to make that make sense. You know, I'm not really that worried about it.
By the way, I keep doing these really bad Joel impressions recently with my wife, where I'll be like, let's just go to bed and forget about all this mess. All the weird things he says.
Southern. That's just the Southern guy.
Just rolls her eyes at me.
That's not even Joel. That's just the Southern man.
That's just a Southern man saying Joel's lines. Let's just get out of here and forget about all this mess. All right. The other thing I wanted to bring up here, apart from the casting, and congratulations, by the way, on all the wins. Nick Offerman was obviously going to win, but it's great to see people being recognized in the creative Emmys. Dagan won a creative. That's where Dagan won an Emmy, is the creative Emmys. So it's dope, and I know that means a lot to them. And it would be cool if they got more play as opposed to just kind of happening before the real Emmys, because it kind of segregates them. By the way, did you see after the Golden Globes, Paul Giamatti at In-N-Out? That is like the fucking best. Yeah. You haven't seen that.
I saw Weird Al at In-N-Out after the Emmys, I think.
Oh, that must have been fun. I know you like him. And I thought that was really funny. By the way, apropos of nothing, I'm just throwing this in here now because it's hysterical to me, is the tunnels in New York City. Those were
what is going on with that?
The pictures coming out of that and the videos. Fuck, I don't know. I actually haven't read into like what the deal is, but just the pictures and the video, like the video of the guy, like the Hasidic Jewish guy coming out of the tunnel and then running.
It is crazy.
Oh my god, it's brilliant. I love it. Speaking of funny pictures, but Connor Reese wrote in. So, gentlemen, why does everyone seem to hate Neil Druckmann? Since the Emmys and Golden Globes last week, I've seen nothing but hate and ire for this man, who I personally believe is one of the greatest auteurs and creative directors in video games. Yes, I am biased and I love both The Last of Us games, but I don't think you can even deny that those are both objectively great games, whether they are for you or not. Is it the anti-Semitism or hate for Israel rampant in the games industry? It seems like folks were upset in quotes at his support for Israel, but do they not realize he's from Israel? I simply don't get the hate and ire that Neil gets, and honestly, it makes me sad to see. Thanks as always for the great content, and have an excellent, I can't wait to play The Last of Us Part 2 on PS5 kind of day. Connor, thanks for writing in. I noticed this too, and I did want to speak on this. Now, I don't know what the purpose is of the level of hatred that Neil Druckmann receives from not only just randos on the internet, but people in the industry, which I think is really strange. First of all, no, I don't think that people realize that he is Israeli. I think a lot of people don't know that. And so that is one thing, and there is certainly an anti-Semitism issue in the games industry. I think that's fairly obvious. I think that that's true in lots of different corners recently, and so that's certainly going to be a piece of it, especially because he overtly supports Israel. But I don't think it's just that. I honestly think, and I say this is, Neil's a personal friend of mine, so I obviously have a bias, a deep bias, but no, it's that bias that informs me that people really don't know the man at all. Like how cool he is, how nice and friendly and down to earth he is, how reasonable he is, how intelligent he is. And so it does bother me to see that level of hate, but you know what I really think a lot of it is rooted in the industry is just pure jealousy. Pure, unadulterated jealousy. Neil Druckmann went from being a fucking designer on Jack X Racing to being the creative director of one of the most influential gaming properties of all time to now being the executive producer of a renowned HBO series, and is now the head of Naughty Dog, and has all this power, prestige, and money. And that bothers the shit out of people. And that's just the bottom line. I mean, I think that a lot of it comes from that. Like, it could just be someone else, and they would do the same thing to him. Or her. And so I think some of it's fed by anti-Semitism. I think some of it is fed by just this really visceral hatred of The Last of Us and what it means to the PlayStation and how important it is to PlayStation. And I think that he kind of represents that. But knowing him, like I said, knowing him personally, having gone to lunch and dinner with him many times and broken bread with him and spoken with him and done all these things, it's like, you don't know the person, and you should really ease up on that, because I know some assholes in this industry, truly, and I know some assholes that are well liked in this industry, and he is not one of those people. No way.
Yeah. Colin, I had a question for you about that, actually, because when I was seeing, I mean, the big thing was the video of him in front of where you're supposed to pose for the photo for the press, and he's standing there, and there's it seems like there are no photos being taken, which in that situation, I'm like, dude, someone told him to go stand there for 30 seconds and then move on. He's not sitting there trying to absorb and get attention. It was so stupid. But I was reading some of these comments that people were saying just stupid stuff, like you brought up, like a lot of anti-Semitic stuff. And the one thing that I saw over and over, and I don't know if there's any truth to this. Maybe you can speak to it, maybe you can't. But a common thing was people saying about how he pushed Bruce Straley out. And I think that's where a lot of, or at least not a lot of, but some of the dislike of Last of Us Part 2 is that people feel like it was a co-vision for the first game, and then the second one comes out and Bruce isn't there, and there are some drastic changes to the story that people don't like, and they feel like they want to point the finger at him for that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole... I do agree. I think we've said this, that it does seem... I think we did an episode called Forgetting Bruce Straley.
Right.
Where... And it wasn't... And it was supposed to be a double entendre, like we're forgetting him. He is an important... He was an important component. It's interesting when you think... I was in media when Last of Us was coming out and kind of going through its PR press cycle and all of that. And they were dispatched as a couple together. And so it was... Like, neither one of them were more important than the other. But I think by Neil staying and Bruce kind of deciding to leave, I think that just came to be what it is, where like someone kind of is missing some sort of credit. And I don't think that that's necessarily right. And I don't know the agreement between them. I have no idea what their relationship is. None. Like, yeah. I really don't. And I haven't spoken to Bruce in more than a decade, probably. So So it's hard to say, or not, maybe not that long, but 8 years or something. So it's hard to say. But it's also like these behind them. I guess these behind the scenes, what people see is thinking goes on behind the scenes is almost never what it seems in my experience, or never is. Oftentimes it's more acrimonious than people think, or less acrimonious, but never the appropriate level of acrimony predicted. And I just think that, in my opinion, The Last of Us Part 2 is better than the original Last of Us, and I think a lot of that has to do with Neil. But that's, again, maybe my own bias towards it.
Yeah.
Either way, I just didn't want to... Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Chris.
Well, no. I was just going to say, like, I think it's just this weird, over-the-top... It just feels like everything is unnecessarily heightened when it comes to really powerful strangers. You know what I mean? Like, people who, like, have a lot of influence and who people don't know. There's a lot of, like, rumor. It feels like there's a big game of telephone going on. You know what I mean? It's like, he pushed Straley out, or, like, I saw some comments, it's like, he pushed Amy Hennig out, and, like, all that stuff. And that's where a lot of the animosity comes from, or just, like, and it's just like, how could... There's no way you know that.
Yeah. First of all, I am intimately knowledgeable on the Amy Hennig situation. I'm not going to talk about the things that I know about it.
Of course, yeah.
But I will say that Neil and Bruce were the victims of that happening because they had to go and save Uncharted 4.
Right.
Like, they had nothing to do with that Amy situation at all.
Oh, dude, no, but this is what I'm saying.
They got fucked. They,
right.
Like, yeah.
But this is what I'm saying. It's like
people don't know what they're talking about.
There's this game of telephone between, like, various news outlets, and, like, I heard this, I heard that. This news item conflicts with this piece of information, or like, I have a bias against this person, and so this event happens where Amy Hennig's out, and I don't like Neil Druckmann. They must be, you know what I mean? Like, there's a weird. I think we all have to realize that we don't know people that we don't know, and it's weird to have this visceral love or hatred for people if they're complete strangers to you. Like, I can't fathom hating somebody that I don't know. Like, I can't wrap my mind around it, really. Because how could you possibly? That's like loving someone you don't know. Like, do you love people that you don't know? Of course not. You might really like someone. You might like, I like Kojima's output. Like, I don't love Kojima, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, oh, hey, cousin Kojima, welcome to Thanksgiving dinner. Like, it's these are very separate things, and people treat people like they know them inside and out, and that they, like, it's like, oh, I hate this person, this complete fucking stranger who just made a game I don't like.
Yeah,
that's weird. I don't get it.
It's funny, man. Like, personally, what you're saying speaks to me in when we got Brad and brought him over to Last Stand, I went and read Reset Era, which, for people that don't know, is a forum, like a really left-wing, crazy forum, a video game forum. And the things people say about me are like, wow, like, that's such a deep level of hatred that I think that, like, people that even knew me wouldn't even... It's not that they would or wouldn't feel a certain way about me. It's that, like, they wouldn't even... People that know me wouldn't even feel like they knew me well enough to say the things that you're saying about me. Like, how can you presume to know a person like this and say things like this about a person? But there are just so many mentally degenerative people out there, which is the only way I can really describe it. And, what's ironic is that without Reset Era, we would have never have been in a position to get Brad. It was their level of vitriol and insanity on the internet that helped, facilitate this thing that otherwise would have never even been thinkable because of your own behavior. Right. It's so strange that people don't realize that, And
it's not just to Colin that, those things you're saying absolutely on Reset Era, just the jumping to conclusions, or not even jumping to conclusions, because that gives an indication that there's some thread to jump onto, but the level of connecting the dots, like, there was a post that we talked about in the staff Discord about how we planned this. We were like, oh, let's get Dustin over on Frame
Dude, I
Trap
wish I was that smart. I wish. That's what when we were talking about that on Discord, I said that. I was like, dude, I wish that I was, like, had any level of intelligence to be able to manipulate a 4D chess move like that. I would be bragging about it from the mountaintops if I had that level of intellect. It's incredible. I appreciate that they think that I'm that smart. Yeah.
All right.
But what they don't realize, like people like that don't realize, is they just push people into our arms. Because all it takes is for people to listen to it for 5 minutes to realize, wow, these people aren't only lying about this person, but are doing it on purpose. And it pushes them away. Because there's no way you can listen to this and get any of that kind of stuff out of it. So when a normal person, not toxified by purple hair dye and weird ideologies, comes and listens to our show, and then they're like, what the fuck are these people talking about? And then they get banned from Reset Era when they say that.
Yeah. You know what I liken it to a lot? I liken it a lot to like the scare campaigns around like weed. You know how like they would be like, if you smoke, your heart's gonna explode and you're gonna become a zombie and you're gonna eat your baby. or like all this like fucking crazy shit. And then you smoke and then you just kind of get a little hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, what the fuck? This isn't that big of a deal at all. These people are crazy.
And then you go do fentanyl.
Yeah, and then and then you go do crocodile.
Fentanyl.
Arm melts off in a sewer somewhere.
All right. Is there anything else to say about this topic?
No. I think we're good.
Okay, good. Well, congratulations to those cast. I mean, that's going to be a career-changing move for you. And not that maybe they needed it anyway. They're all well-known actors and actresses, but
yeah,
what a great... Yeah, and I don't know anything about them either, but just looking at them, I'm like, yeah, this looks right, feels right. I was wondering if they were going to do any more, like, racial bending, for lack of a better term, with some of the characters. Make this person this or make this person that, because they kind of had done that with...
Joel's
with,
daughter,
with Joel and with Sarah, but yeah, they just kind of stuck with it, which I was also like, you know, kind of an Indian. I don't know if they like Indian. I don't know what you would say, like a or somewhere from that subcontinent area. She was like maybe her family, and then you have an Asian person for Jesse. So everything's kind of staying where it needs to be, or where it was. But yeah, I was wondering if they were going to do anything with that, because they showed an inclination to do that immediately, and I actually thought. It's almost like canon Joel in some way for me. Canon Joel and Sarah in some way. Like, I like that representation of them. I love the representation of them in the game, too. But I thought they did a really nice job with that.
There's more to chew on in the show with them specifically.
Definitely.
So that kind of helps. Also, before we move on, I'm glad you brought up that video of him in front of the cameras. Because I felt so bad for him. Because,
I know.
Because you know that he was told to stand there for like 30 seconds and that people who have no idea about that are just going to assume that he's just sitting there trying to absorb everything, and like, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was so mad at that video, because I was like, God damn it, people are gonna act so stupid about this.
Yeah, people have no idea how these things work. That it's like, yeah, someone telegraphed him to go stand there for photos.
They're not
and
even
maybe
curious.
that was taken at the, maybe the photos were taken and then the recording started right after, or maybe not. Maybe there was very few photos of him taken. That's one thing too. But it's not like he's standing there with his ego blown up. Like, look, I'm a game guy. And I made it here.
He's probably counting down in his head, like, when is this going to be over? You know?
Oh yeah.
He doesn't like this kind of stuff. You know, he wants to be working on games and working on and writing and being in the trenches. Like he's gravitated towards an executive role and this more creative control role because he's good at it. But he reminds me a little bit of my brother, where I think that they would be happiest just at a desk somewhere. You know, like,
Yeah.
but like you kind of grow out of that role regretfully in some way. And so people just totally, it does check me in my own personal misrepresentations of someone, like what I think about people when I know someone like that being misrepresented so deeply. You know, it bothers me actually, but it is personal, and so you can take it with a grain of salt if you want. All right, number 2. Tantalizing rumors are percolating that select Xbox-aligned first-party games may be migrating to competing platforms, including PlayStation. Yes, some games under the Xbox umbrella are already on PlayStation and have been for years. Think Minecraft and its spin-offs, which Xbox purchased more than a decade ago by way of developer Mojang. But that catalog may be about to expand in some unexpected directions. From our perspective, Xbox's publishing structure looks a little bit like this. Truly internal teams in the Microsoft Studios family, teams owned by publishers Microsoft has purchased, which is one degree of separation, and then perhaps a different degree of separation with second-party games, which all hardware manufacturers deal with. If rumors are to be believed, a Microsoft Studios game in the form of the mega-popular Sea of Thieves, along with a Bethesda-published game in the form of Hi-Fi Rush, may be en route to PlayStation. The trail of these rumors is fairly complex, so let's defer to the reporting of Jez Corden, a friend of our show, who reported the timeline on Windows Central. Basically, a reliable leaker, YouTuber Nate the Hate, noted that an Xbox game was en route to competitor platforms, one of an, quote, acclaimed Game of the Year worthy, end quote, pedigree. People immediately connected this to 2023's Hi-Fi Rush from Tango Gameworks, a studio under the Bethesda umbrella, which is in turn under the Xbox umbrella. Since that moment, more chatter has emerged from typically reliable industry people, forum rumors, and so on, indicating that Hi-Fi Rush was first perhaps coming to Nintendo Switch, but maybe actually coming to PlayStation. This vibes with Jez's own reporting. He notes in part, quote, "They say there's no smoke without fire. I will say that it has been suggested to me from very trusted, proven sources that Microsoft has been exploring bringing some of its back catalog to other platforms, although some of the details remain vague and unconfirmed," end quote. On top of that, even more interesting news later emerged when Stephen Totillo, writing on his GameFile Substack, reported that Sea of Thieves, perhaps one of Xbox's most successful games ever, could be migrating to PlayStation. Totillo notes that Sea of Thieves could come to PlayStation as soon as early this year, and he reports that fellow games writer Jeff Grubb reiterated much of this news on his own podcast. Now, while this falls in line with what Xbox brand CFO Tim Stewart said before the holidays, specifically that Xbox was looking at traditional competitors like Nintendo and PlayStation to place its content, including Game Pass, it does conflict with the PR cleanup head of Xbox Phil Spencer was later dispatched to do. But all of this, coupled with the absolutely blatantly weird refusal to name platforms for Blade at Arcane, adds up to something going on. With an Xbox event planned in the immediate future, it could be that we here at Sacred Symbols will have to begin paying attention to the potential that Xbox games on PlayStation in some way beyond the current status quo is inevitable. As many people wrote in, Matic Brick wrote in and said, "What is up with Xbox and Phil Spencer? Are they going multi-platform or not? Make up your damn mind." He wrote that all in capital letters. Dustin, it never, ever ends with this shit. I swear to God. A lot of this comes from their own fumbling around. I mean, obviously these are leaks as well, but they really speak out of both sides of their mouths, because knowing that this is coming from a Stephen Totillo, a Jez Corden, Jeff Grubb, Sea of Thieves is coming to PlayStation. I mean, like it seems like that's a thing that's happening. It looks like Hi-Fi Rush is coming to maybe Switch and/or PlayStation. This is in direct. I mean, this goes against what they've been saying, and then people look at me, and they say like, Colin's so stupid. Why does he think it's weird that they won't say what Blade's on? Obviously, it's going to be an Xbox game. I'm like, is it really that obvious? I mean, is it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't see why that would be obvious, considering all the different weird shit. Like, there's just rules that are made up on a constant basis. Anyway, I'm ranting on.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, no, I feel super justified in this as well, because I got a lot of heat last year when I talked about Phil Spencer talking out of the two sides of his mouth, and here's just another example of that. And it's funny when these things happen, because it's always there's stipulations like, well, he was talking about these games, or he was talking about going forward. And it's like, well, what does it mean? Because we have no idea at this point anymore. Specifically in this scenario that's all happening within a 2-month period, when we talked about the guy from the board or whatever.
Tim Stewart.
Yeah, Tim Stewart was talking
CFO.
about, going multi-platform, and then a few days later feels like no, and it's like, well, which is it?
Well, because he's like, we don't have any plans to bring Game Pass to PlayStation, and that's why I was saying. And people thought I was, I actually talked to Jez about this, because he was like, I really had a very limited amount of time to speak with him, and I'm like, I get that, but I felt like such a powerful follow-up would have been. Come on, all right. So what does that mean? You got to break that down a little bit, because that's just you just talk your way out of that, and it's clear, in my opinion, Dustin, that how can you really believe anything this dude says? Like, it just seems like it's just bouncing all over the place. I don't know. It's strange to me.
Right. As far as these games switching over and being on a different platform, it's funny. When I was thinking about and seeing the reaction to this, and seeing how Xbox fans felt betrayed by it, while I think there is some overreaction with that, I kind of get it in this case, where you have a mixed messaging. What feels like every few months, mixed messaging. And it would be frustrating. If you're hardcore about that platform like we are for PlayStation, then yes, be really, really frustrating. In terms of it actually happening, I think this makes a lot of sense. I think Xbox can kind of have their cake and eat it too, where they can use these games as big draws to Game Pass at release. And then a year later, in the case of Sea of Thieves, a few years later, make money again on it. And it's really not going to detract from Game Pass as a service. The question I have is that, are these two games test beds for testing the waters and see, okay, well, maybe these games do really well. We make a lot of money that we can use to fund into Game Pass and support our own service. And let's do that some more. And in particular, with a live service S game like Sea of Thieves. We talked about this earlier with Helldivers being on PS5 and PC. Having it diversified across multiple platforms just means more money, to the point where we know that Marathon, a Sony-owned team, they're going to be releasing that on Xbox. I honestly think a smart business decision would, if Sony did this, if they have a successful live service game, maybe it's an exclusive for a year or two, widen up the audience even more. Something like Concord, I could see that releasing on Xbox someday, because these games are about the long-term money that they can make. Hi-Fi Rush is a little bit of a different case that is more interesting to me, in that they don't really have any imperative to bring it over other than just the initial sales from it. But I wonder if there's more. I mean, I wonder if there's a reality where some of their other live service S games come to PlayStation. Think about Halo Infinite on PS5. Imagine the player base.
The meltdown
would be great.
Over that would be, oh man, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
And it's funny, right before Christmas, I played just one night